I'm feeling just fine.
Yeah, dude, I've been using the air up thing. Well, it's invisible. It's pretty cool. Let's make me drink more water. Drink water, guys. Very, very helpful.
And we can just get the cat timestamp out of the way right away. We
Yeah,
know where it is.
yeah.
We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stormkeep Live Realm Report number 6, featuring, as everybody will soon be able to see, James's wonderful cat. Oh, he's gone. You had him there for a second. He was there. He's real. We saw him. Yeah. Okay. My name is Paul. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Today with me, we have James and Dan, who are regulars, and our special guest, Mr. Mark P., who recently won a tournament, 5.0 GT, out here near James and I, and we are very happy to have him on the podcast. Mark, welcome aboard.
Hey, good to be here.
Great. So you are one of those degenerate Soulblight players that everybody's complaining about, and we are here to berate you for picking that army, obviously, and just complain everything that's wrong with the game is now immediately your fault.
Classically, yeah. It's all my fault. I changed everything. I wrote the book. I said, you know what? No one else gets to play the game, just me.
Yeah, no, there was a problem in the previous book, where like people could stop you from reviving models sometimes, and they decided to fix that. And now everybody's having a great time.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, it's great to have you. It's great to have you on. Before we jump into everything, Dan, you want to give a shout out to our sponsor?
Yeah, absolutely. Our sponsor is Kaiju Gaming Lounge. They're down in Orlando, Florida. Wonderful group of guys. Carl has been on the channel before as well, helping out with our Slaves review. Awesome guy. They supply us with our models for our painting contests, which of course we're about to cover our painting contest winners in a second here. They also do custom gaming aids. You've probably seen our awesome Stormkeep sticks, and they also have our like measuring sticks. We got a 7-inch, 9-inch stick, and that'll help you measure out if you're playing Seraphon, you're playing Beast, or Stormcast. If you pull them out every once in a while, if you're watching, maybe you're a Stormcast player. They're pretty cool. They're awesome. They come in different colors. They can come unpainted, so you can add your own color to the design as well. So yeah, check them out. They've got our dice, our sticks, a bunch of other things. They carry Shatterpoint. They carry a lot of different models. So check them out. Use code Stormkeep and support.
I've been using those sticks a lot playing Seraphon lately. They really come in handy, man. Because in the same turn, you'll have 7-inch and 9-inch deployments, which sometimes in the same part of the same movement phase. It feels pretty good, man. I like it. All right. So first up, let's talk about the results of our May 2023 painting contest, which was Painting Dracoths. And I've wanted to do this one for a while because Dracoths are like the best unit in the Stormcast book, arguably. At least they have like consistently the best unit since the edition launched, right? Like there's other good units in the book, but surely Dracoths have just been carrying their weight the whole time. Everybody uses Fulminators, and I think we've convinced a lot of people to use Tempestors as well. The other two, pass, right? They're not so great.
Fulminators are still the benchmark for damage in this edition, so...
Totally. Everybody always, at least we do, and I've noticed other people as well, they'll be like, oh, there's not Fulminator level damage, or, oh, these guys do the damage of 2 Fulminators. It's what you compare the damage output to, because nothing hits quite like them. Except Witches. Witch Elves murder everything, and I hope people catch on to that soon. Well, I don't.
We'll see.
I like
Mark is a closeted Daughters of Cain player as well.
Oh, so okay, so you know.
I do know. Yeah, I do know about the blender.
Oh man,
that is Witch Elves. Yeah.
On one hand, I hope people keep sleeping on them, because I like Daughters of Cain suffering and being at like a 40-something% win rate. I'm so happy to see that right now. I've disliked that army for a long time because I just hate Morathi. I'm just tired of playing against Morathi every single edition. But I'm also terrified that people are going to pivot into like Kraith with 2x30 Sisters of Slaughter, or even just 10-man squads of Sisters of Slaughter. Like they just do so much damage when you pump them up. I told you guys.
There we go. He shows up in
5 minutes after we start. Late. Exactly when I predicted.
Nice.
Hey, Mergonk.
Hey.
So Dracoths are an excellent unit, and I've wanted to do a Painting Dracoths for a while, so I'm very excited that we got to do that. The winners will be messaged privately after the stream, and they will receive their choice from a pool of a Frostheart Phoenix, a Lord Castellant, and a Lumineth Cenari Lore Seeker. 3 tech units that we've been using in a lot of our Stormcast list building, and even in some other armies too. They're just great Order allies in general. James, you were using the Frostheart Phoenix and Ideneth for a good while there. That was
it was a fun little distraction gimmick.
Mm-hmm. You painted it to look like a seagull to match your like ocean theme.
Yep.
It's awesome. I will also say at this point we are taking a break for our painting contest this month for June. There will not be another one, but they will be back in July. We've done 5 in a row, and that's a record for us. So we're like, 40K is coming out this month. People are probably going to be really hyped on that. We didn't want to jump in on that hype and get things mixed up. So they'll be back in July. Yeah, we also got a ton of new Battletomes. It's been Battletome whiplash.
Yeah.
So let's turn off this pop out and let's go into our honorable mentions. So first up is Ox King, who is a regularly featured Stormcast painter. I see on his Instagram he's painting other armies these days, but every now and then he still pops back in and makes some really awesome stylized Stormcast. In particular, his Fulminators here with these Annihilator shields, these are such a cool concept. And he's got this like broken down, beaten down metal style that he likes to work with, and I really like this overall. It's highlighted very well to give the illusion that the glaives are glowing with light, and it's just awesome. I think these little shield bits on the Fulminators are from the Longbeard kit or the Hammerers, one of the two. I always get them mixed up.
They might be
no, they're Annihilator shields, aren't they?
No, the smaller ones.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are definitely dwarf shields. If
those are from the iron breakers, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's from that kit.
Yeah, maybe somebody in the chat can confirm that for us. But yeah, they look great.
It might be Death Rattle skeletons, actually.
Really? Like Celtic looking design?
Because I'm seeing the one in like the background there, it has some chips on it. So usually the Death Rattle shields are kind of worn away.
No, it's iron breakers. I just looked it up.
Okay.
It definitely it's iron breakers.
Sweet. No, they look great. They match the Annihilator shields really well. One of the things I really dislike, there's 2 things I dislike about Dracoths, conceptually. One is their static poses, because it was very obviously designed for Warhammer Fantasy and then ported over into Age of Sigmar, right? Like they've got this regimented look, kind of like Fire Slayers. They look like they're supposed to be standing next to each other on square bases.
And in a cube, basically.
Yeah, they've got this volumetric thing going on, right? But also they're tiny little baby shields. Like that really bothered me, that the foot soldiers can carry tower shields, but then you get the cavalry and they've got like bucklers equipped, which feels weird. And the Annihilator shields fix that. That looks really great.
I mean, I don't know. Like, how large is a knight shield supposed to be? Ideally, torso size.
Well, it's made of magic, so I just want like shields on top of shields. Like these guys, like I want a double shield Fulminator with a shield on his back. I just want mountains of armor.
Sure.
Yeah, like Skull Crushers, right? They have that big of a shield, right? Wait. Huh.
No, they don't. They have all the I don't know any cavalry.
I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just messing with you guys.
The theory, I guess, there is that their mount is made of metal, so that's +1 save. I don't know how Blood Crushers are a 3-up save when Blood Letters are a 5-up, but whatever.
You know.
They're better at math than a Drakesworn Templar.
Oh, we're never gonna get over that 4-up save, are we?
Nope.
That's our next shirt idea right there. Drakesworn Templar looking at the number 4, really sad. But great work, Ox King. Love it, man. Keep it coming. Our next honorable mention is from White Paints, who is a regular this year on the podcast. And every time he puts his work in the contest, I'm always excited. He hasn't disappointed this time. I mean, look at the madman hand-painted Karazai and Krondys on the back of these 2 Dracoths. Like, god damn, dude. Making me look so bad. I just painted them like red, single color. And you're over here painting a mural. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he does this. He did this on the wings of his big dragon. I think he painted prosecutors, I think, falling from the sky.
Yeah, he painted a tiny little prosecutor on the wing of his Karazai. Just crazy, but just gorgeous metal, gorgeous working. Like there's source lighting here without there being an obvious source of light. You know, like you can tell that he's thought about how the light would shine onto these two models when they're placed in this position. It's all consistent. The colors work very well. The blues, the reds,
non-metallic metal
great.
too. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. And look at the base too. He's got these crystals that he hand painted. These aren't just like 3D printed. They're hand painted, and they match the lighting of the models. Like where the red would shine onto them from the Dracoths as a reflection. You can see that on there. They just look great.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. This is like so much dedication for one unit.
I love the helmet, like the helmet crest, and just like, wow. Just looking on the sides, yeah, you can see. Really
the patterns on there. Oh, I just noticed that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the pattern on the actual helmet crest past.
Mm-hmm. And that matches the mural of the dragons that he painted on.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Unreal. Like, I want to say I wish I had this level of spare time, but I don't think I could pull this off. So beautiful work as always, White Paints. Thank you very much for entering our contest. Our third honorable mention is another regular on the channel, Vorted. Vorted has a very cool style. It looks like what would you even call that? Like neon 80s storm wave, I guess. It's just so cool.
Like kind of vaporwave-ish.
Vaporwave, yeah. Stormcast wave, I don't know. Sigmar wave. You can think of a cool name for it. But he's kind of solved the problem here with the Stormcast guns, in that they should have some triggering mechanism. Like there should be something to justify the prongs at the end of the Stormcast guns, and there just isn't, right? So he's kind of figured out that he's imbuing them with lightning, I guess. But that effect looks really cool. In addition to just being a beautiful paint job, I really like the transition from orange all the way down to blue for their cloaks. The source lighting on the mouths of the dragons to make it look like the breathing lightning, which ties in with the guns that are shooting lightning potentially, like they are in the fluff, right? There's lightning, chain lightning from those arrows, and then that little emblem on the front as well. So it all just kind of ties in, makes the front of the model look very threatening. Beautiful work, Vorted. I love these.
Yeah, I like that he went for a very matte look on the whole model. Not very much like, shiny metal, very, subdued.
Mm-hmm. If I were to have any criticism of this, I think it's that the swords on the backs are painted the same color as the cloak. And it looks intentional, obviously, because it's highlighted and everything, but I think it just blends too much into the cloak, and it should be more of a distinct detail. But I would like to see what, that kind of cosmic pattern on a sword. That would be a pretty cool weapon for a Stormcast army.
Yeah.
Like a whole unit of Vanquishers with swords like that would be so sick.
Mine are themed cosmic in a similar way, but wow, yeah, these are awesome.
Love it. So looking at our third place winner here, we have Stanwise. And I'm not sure the reason you guys gave this guy votes in our contest, but the reason I can say I gave him votes is because I've never seen this kind of sepia tone Dracoth before, and that's just really cool.
That was exactly it. It gave me like almost an Oriental dragon vibe, right? Where you've got it almost like the dragon is made out of like parchment. I don't know. Like some kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a nice color to. It's a hard color to pull off because you need to manage your shades and coverage pretty well. I think it's like, I want to say it's the same formula as the one that they use on the Gryphounds that are like leading the chariot, the Stormstrike chariot. It's like that same sort of color scheme, but it looks so much better when the recesses are shaded on the Dracoths. So
yeah, the recesses are what bring this together.
And it's like, you don't see white Dracoths, you mostly see blues and reds and greens. I feel like this is really unique and cool.
I love the base. I'm all about that base.
Yeah, I know those rollers that he used. I have one somewhere in this shelf here. I know I have that exact roller because I thought about using that for my Sacrosanct Chamber. So that's another reason I like this one. It's very cool. The tiny hint of blue on the eyes as well. balancing out all the hotter tones on the model, like the oranges and the reds.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. I just love this scheme. So congratulations, Standwise, on taking third place in our contest, man. Well deserved. Second place, we have a returning painter, Edom22, with this very stylized but also technically proficient fulminator, which immediately caught my eye. There's a lot of stuff going on here that I really like. First off, the glaives obviously look amazing. They've got a great fade all the way from light to dark, going through the haft. The armor is this, like, how would you even describe this blue or green? It's like a teal, and you don't see that kind
Yeah,
of
it's like
thing.
a teal. Yeah, I would say teal or turquoise. It's like the typical Celestial Vindicator color.
Yeah, but you don't see Celestial
looks...
Vindicators enough anymore. It's very unique these days.
Yeah, it's because that color combination is like kind of hard to do. It needs a lot of patience because a lot of the times, metallic sprays are pretty easily available. Gold or silver is pretty easily doable, but this actually requires a good amount of application of, I think, I want to say off the top of my head, Sotek green, some Celia green shade, and Temple Guard blue. So, good for him. These colors really pop on this, and I actually quite like the idea, the color he went with it for the Dracoths, because this is a man this is a person who knows what a color palette is. I'll just say it that way.
No, these colors complement each other very well. I really, really dig it. Then there's the base too. Like I love the style of this base. The like random hunks of molten rock spewing out of it, but then there's still temple steps on top of it, and that lighting is actually reflected onto the model as well. If you look at it from underneath, at the front plates there and on the front feet, the lighting is done well to account for that. The location of the hotspots on the base. So very technically well done. A color scheme we don't see very often, and it just looks great all around. Congratulations, Edom22. I believe you're in the chat. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you're Eduardo Rodriguez in the chat. So congratulations, buddy. This is gorgeous. I loved your entry in the Big Dragon contest, and I'm glad that you put something in for this one too.
Mm-hmm.
And our... Yeah,
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say... Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay, so our first place winner is Ramonica. I think I pronounced that correctly. With this fantastic family of Dracoths, some of which have been converted from lesser creatures, like the Griff Charger. But it's a whole dang squad of them, and he's they've been in the Discord server before, and I just love this squad. I've loved watching it build up over time. The bases look great. The way the stones are all laid out, there's a huge amount of variety there. The blues are vibrant. The reds are nice and sharp. It just awesome. Like the kit bashing here is great too. I never thought to mold the Griff Charger's face into a Dracoth and then change the Lord Arcane into a Fulminator. So that's really cool.
That's a Stormdrake head.
Is it? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's a Stormdrake head. Yeah. That's a Stormdrake head, and then it combines really well. He posted a work in progress of this in our Discord.
Yeah,
you should check out.
This is really
I love
cool.
that head too.
Yeah, we haven't seen Ramonica in a while in our painting contests, but yeah, I'm really glad to see this after such a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reds are really well shaded on the tabards and all the cloth and everything. It looks like cloth, which is great. I have a problem where I paint all my reds on the model to look the same. So if it's like hair or cloth or armor plate, whatever, it's all the same. It just looks the same texture. But like the blue cloth and the red cloth definitely look like cloth. The chainmail looks like chainmail. You can see all the extra bits added around the Griff Charger's neck. There's just armor panels. You've got a Vindictor shield. You've got the front crest from a Dracoth. There's just a ton of bits on here that make it, passably. I can believe that that's a Dracoth, and it looks cool.
Yeah, it's super well done.
Because like we were complaining about how the Dracoths don't look dynamic enough, the bases actually help bring that out.
Yes, the bases are awesome on this.
Dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Makes
My
them look
favorite
like
one is
living SUVs going over rough terrain.
Yeah, my favorite one is the
ATVs.
one on the right because of the difference in the colors, right? Like you've got that stark white rock compared to the rest of them that are more blue toned.
Mm-hmm. Look at that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
That's a good boulder, man. I'd sit on that rock.
Congratulations, Romanica. Fantastic work. So we'll be in touch with all the winners. We'll get you guys your choice of prizes, and I hope to see everybody continue putting in their entries, because I really enjoy doing these painting contests. They're a great deal of fun. It motivates me to paint some of my own stuff, clear out my backlog, and I love doing these.
Yeah, super well done. Even better if you check out our Discord. Not only can you chat with us, but you can check out these previous painting contests. If you need some inspiration for your Stormcast models, you can go check out what people have done. Similar contests, you know, Karazai. We've had, I don't think we have Storm Drakes yet, but we've had Dracolines. Yeah, we've had a couple models, some different heroes, you know, Bastion and such. We've had a couple, and they're all really good. So check them out.
Yeah. Great deal of fun, lots of inspiration for my own works. I haven't gotten around to Storm Drakes yet, but if I'm predicting the battle scroll correctly, then I think Storm Drakes are going to be pretty big next season.
I pray so much. Sigmar, please help.
Let's will that 300 into existence.
Yes, 300. That's what we're waiting for.
I just we've got a 100% track record of predictions on the channel. If you guys have seen our April battle scroll video. All of that's going to come true, guaranteed, for sure.
I like the renaming of Marathi. I think that Daughters of Cain and Marathi and the Bosniks. I think that would be just fine. I don't think anyone would complain. It's just true.
No, and like that's what all elf books should be. It should be God model and one model unit. So Teclis and Sentinels, Marathi, Bosniks. You know, Malarion, whatever his unit is in that book.
And then Idoneth, just daddy issues, and just daddy issues. Actually, there's nothing else.
Another tragic absent father household.
It is what it is.
You know, 75% of elf armies that have a father in the household tend to do better in games. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. This is horrible. But
this stream is getting demonetized.
Getting demonetized.
It's not just about fatherhood, though. Like, there's some with single mothers that still do well, too, right? We're talking Sylvaneth.
Yeah, because we're counting Marathi as you know, like it's the moms are fine. It's just the dads if they're missing. I don't know. Anyways.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk match play. Right. That's the point of the Realm Report is to discuss the ongoing changing metagame, and oh boy, has there been a lot of change in the metagame since we last did one of these. It's been about 2 months because we didn't do a live stream last month on this stuff. We did a video on power creep because we didn't feel like doing a Realm Report because there was so much power creep, right? So we're like, let's just talk power creep.
Armies. Yeah, it was boring. It wasn't very. It was hard to put together a fun like lineup of lists.
Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully, there's been so many books that are all so ridiculously strong. We have a good batch of diverse lists to talk about now.
Which, all the new lists.
If you play one of these armies, it feels good. I bet.
It feels great. Highly recommend it.
I am one bad battle scroll away from picking up a KO army. That's where I'm at.
You're not the only one. When we look at the numbers later, you'll see there's been a huge spike in the popularity of Caradron. Enormous.
Yeah, we got stats coming in too from our partnership with Wohammer, which you should check out as well. I think we'll have a link in the description to their website. They're a great source of info. But...
You know, you shouldn't say. Don't tell GW you're just one step away from picking up an army, because that means whatever they did is working.
Right, I'm one good battle scroll away from buying more Storm Drakes. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore.
I'm one battle scroll away from 3D printing reasonable proxies.
Ooh, there you go. Hit him right where it hurts. There we go.
I don't have a printer. I don't know how to work that nonsense. Okay, chat. Make sure you guys vote in the poll. We're asking you guys what you think the next seasonal gimmick is going to be. It's either going to be cavalry, wizards, monsters, or hopefully nothing. So let us know what you guys think is going to be in the next season. I know where my money's at.
Oh, true. Rob in the chat saying predictions. Time to post them in Discord. Actually, no, you post them on 4chan as leaks. That's how you do it. You take anything that Paul says, you post it on 4chan, and people somehow believe that it's leaks.
There were a couple weeks of that in a row, right? Like
It was two. It was 2 times that it happened.
Yeah.
It was the your battle scroll wish list and your 4.0 thoughts. Your 3.5 thoughts.
Yeah, it's okay. So yeah, the first one was like somebody. I have like a list of just I don't know. I just use it to sort my thoughts, right? Which is like point changes I'd like to see in the next battle scroll, and like it's very obviously from me because like almost every Stormcast unit went down, and like everything else in the game went up. So it's very obvious that it comes from my brain.
And the Seraphon book went down too. There's Seraphon points in there. Oh man.
Yeah, so it's like it's obviously nonsense, right? I thought that was the case. It's not a secret or anything. I share this stuff on the Discord. I ask for feedback on it because I'm just
how the guy got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, right. So that's probably how they found it, and they decided to post it on. I think it started on 4chan, and they said these are leaks from the upcoming battle scroll. But it's like this was in May, and the battle scroll's not coming out till next month. So like they're really ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But I guess despite all of the obvious things that were wrong with it, some people still believe that it could have been real. And some people got very mad about those changes. Which is pretty wild. And then the second time, I found out about this the day after it happened. Because I've got another document. I've got a whole bunch of these. These aren't like the only ones I work on. But one of them that I have is like, how I would like to change 3rd edition, and I call it my 3.5 wish list, right? Like things about 3rd edition as a game that kind of annoy me that I'd like to improve. Some of it's like experimental, just like thinking through what could be. But somebody saw this and decided to post it as leaks for 4th edition. And then I guess some other content creators found it and started talking about it. And what was the exact phrasing that Halo used to describe it? Dan, I think you might know this.
I think I can pull it up.
It's not YouTube appropriate, but he called it like I remember it was like utter dog shit, but it was great. It was and he was giving his honest thoughts. We actually I know you went back and you watched the stream, right? The VOD.
Yeah. It was great feedback. Like I'm always asking for feedback on that stuff, and that was like that was the best feedback I could have gotten. Was a whole bunch of people thinking it was real. And just crapping all over it. That's the best way to get feedback. He
spent like 2 hours on it, and it was actually, I do like listening to someone who actually, like talks about their thoughts. Like he gave some choice words on Twitter, and that's totally fine because like he backed it up with his thoughts. Like it's totally fine.
He pretty correctly deduced. It's like I guess this player plays Stormcast.
Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, he 100%.
He somehow deduced that that's what was going on, and he's like. I'm like, yeah, if you understand the game on that level, yeah, I'll, it's worth listening to him on what he thinks and why some things work or some things don't.
Oh yeah, everybody's got a bias, right? Like we're biased as Stormcast players. We want armor to matter. He's biased as an ogre player. He wants his big monsters to matter, and he wants like charge mortal wounds and things like that to matter. So everybody's got a bias, and it's like it was just interesting to hear what people had to say about it. So
it was.
None of these things were real. I don't know how this happened 2 weeks in a row. But I only found out about it like a day or two afterwards. It would have been so much fun to sit in that stream and just play along. That would have been fun.
Yeah. Too bad, but still great conversation. Halo's a great guy. I always like hearing his thoughts on things because he's very well spoken and he puts things together and doesn't just throw crap out there, which is cool.
Dan, I think the super chat is for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to decline, bud. Anyways.
All right, I'm sure you know what it means, but thank you very much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. That's crazy. All right, so talking tournament meta. I guess the first list we're talking about here is Caradron Overlords. This is a 5-0 Barak Urbaz list.
It's actually a what is it, 7-0? So it's a Warhammer Fest tournament. It's technically an 8-0 list.
Oh yeah, because they do 3 days of games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is
undefeated.
Nice.
And so I just put the top, like the last 5 because presumably they're the most difficult. Just to throw it out there. But this list is this is like the epitome of like this army's undercosted to me. So this is double command entourage, sharpshooters, which is awesome. Like this is everything is a drop, and you've got 2 of every of the 3 good KO heroes. You can take 2 copies of each one.
He's got 2 admirals. It's so silly.
Yes, it's 2 admirals, 2 aether chemists, 2 navigators. Oh,
and
man.
he doesn't lose out on any offense because of this.
No. This is still 30 Thunderers. And he is 100% getting all of them up to you whenever he wants to do so, right? Like he can hold them back. He's probably going to push them forward because he's only got 1 screen. This is a pure alpha that
he still has a screen.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a screen.
No, he has everything. He's got unbinds, he's got auto unbinds, he's got rend increases, he's got at least 4 free command points. He's got rend increases from the Admiral. He's got multiple run and shoot and charge. He's got 4 up rallies. He's got 3 up saves. It's like
there's only 1 skyship. He's got 2
and a free bridge, which doesn't cost any points.
Well,
that's like an Aether Chemist doesn't actually.
This is a well-balanced army, as everyone can tell by now.
Yeah. The Ironclad's the only thing in this list that's not efficient. Everything else in a KO army is just like, oh man, it feels good to build lists. I remember when we did our review.
Everything in,
You get everything. You get everything you want in this army. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got turn off wards. You've got your spell to bottles whole screen bridge to enable one of that Thunderers unit that isn't going in the boat. You've got Voidstorm orbs. You can stop one of the worst things that can happen to a KO army like this, which is to get alpha nuked by something like
Carrying white light is probably the worst thing that could happen to you. So you have to.
Yeah. I mean, Croak could happen.
Seraphon.
Well, what I mean.
Seraphon would nuke this. It would be crazy how bad that matchup is.
Yeah.
Not even the Croak, just like regular Seraphon.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Voice Armor wouldn't do too much there, I guess. Just be 1 spell, but still
1 out of 9.
Yeah, it's this list. It it almost writes itself how easy it is to put together. It's just put gun to enemy and roll dice.
It's a brain off army. Just teleport your dudes, shoot them, and then when they kill you, you rally and shoot them again.
Yeah,
because you have a 4 up rally on.
And it's not even attached to your hero. It's just every hero in this army could be dead, and you could just have the Gruntstock captain issue it to himself, and it would be 4 up. Like,
yep.
It's 135-point unit, guys. It's that's how we play AOS these days now.
Yeah.
This list has some. It's a great list because a lot of Kharadron players aren't taking sharpshooters. They're just going 1-drop so they can control either Alpha Strike or go for the double, right? This one, I could see it having some real problems with armies that can cripple it on round 1. But
really, absolutely.
But realistically, what can you play against in this current meta that can do significant damage to Kharadron on turn 1? There's not much.
Probably Cometfall.
Cometfall, Iron Jaws.
I think you can deploy.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe actually.
Iron Jaws maybe, but I don't know about that. Like, your Unleash is incredible. Your last word is basically a double Unleash. You do have 3 up saves across the army. They're not very easily killable. The only things that I can see causing problems for this list are like Beasts of Chaos, I think, because
Beast, Stormcast, Seraphon.
Beast, Stormcast, maybe OBR depending on the build, like -1 to hit and wound and lots of resurrection with Catacross or Archon.
Yeah, OBR. Well, he's got the sharpshooter, so he just kills the champion there. You just pour everything into them round 1.
Then you've already blown the load.
And then you're in range to be charged. So I don't know about that.
You're in range to be charged. So so it's not like that.
Yeah, so that could do it. I mean, Ogre Monster Trucks maybe could do it, like with a Kragnos Monster Truck list that charges 3d6 and just flies over and kills something. That could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the charge mortal wounds help a lot.
So
your only issue here is that you have 1 boat and you're just going in. So it's interesting. Like, I mean, looking at the Gloomspite Gits, it must be just a crazy amount of output, because with Gits, I mean, when you're going up against a list like this, where you have 1 Ironclad and everyone's in the party boat, I mean, you're not getting on any of the objectives. So you have to clear things to get onto those objectives. So even if you're soul scream bridging over and you're shooting, you're concentrating all this firepower, you're lifting that thing on that 1 objective. So you must be like dropping that Arcanaut company. Like, there must be some kind of shenanigans where he's able to get onto the objective, maybe with Soul Screen
I think it's
Bridge.
just the heroes. I think the heroes are just thrown away. Like
Yeah.
the navigators don't need to be
Yeah.
anywhere with their huge ranges on things. They can just sit on objectives and count as 2 models, and that's enough.
Mm-hmm. They also won't always use fly high mechanics to be 9 inches away. Sometimes they'll just be like, Admiral issues a run and charge to my ironclad, run, charge, and shoot, and they'll go, I'll just run 16 inches, shoot you, charge you, get on, disembark all my dudes. And they'll shoot you again, then they'll charge you, take on the objective.
He's got the footnote to issue 2 commands to a boat, right? So that's
basically that's the fly high and deploy. So you would think that you have to screen out 9 inches away, thinking their guns are 12 and 18. They're not, because when you disembark from the boat, you can disembark within 9. So
yeah, and that's the key, I think. But it's interesting because this is one boat, right? One boat going in.
The boat seems exposed here without any riggers to repair it. I feel like you could cut a navigator and an admiral and then just repair the boat.
No, it's not needed, Paul. Having fought this list twice, variations of it, there's like 15 10 Thunderers and 2 list with 30 Thunderers. Trust me, the efficiency of these units is insane.
Yeah, it is.
We're talking about 2 up save, 5 up ward things that are not surviving against this.
Yeah.
So like, this is basically just you turn your brain off, you deploy your turrets, and you kill everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross. Caradron's undercosted for sure. Thunderers being 135 is like a crime
It's
in
insanity.
this game.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And
they
so
exist in a
pushed,
weird way. Like, yeah.
They do the best damage for their points and the best defenses.
I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I guess they achieved their objective. Thunderers are out of stock everywhere, so that's what the objective. Well
it's
done,
true.
They are out of stock. I mean, yeah, they've even got a command trait, X grunt stock. Like, it's just you just take it.
Yeah, it's just so like in this list, it's like 3 CP, 3 up save, 4 up rally, -1 to hit in the boat. Rending increases, turn off wards,
turn off your spell.
Lots of 2 damage, lots of 1 damage. They even have flamers. They have auto hits now in this game, so it's like, oh, wow! Like I haven't seen shooting auto hits from 40k in here. Like I think even salamanders with their flamer for the hordes have to roll hit rolls.
It's a 40k army in AOS in more ways than one.
I mean, there's a reason Richard Siegler, that Tau player, likes them. So
yeah. I will also push back on the grand strategy here. Rule the skies with one ship doesn't seem like the best idea. Unless you can score it if you have 0 ships and you kill every flying unit. I don't know if that's the case, if you can do that.
No, they FAQ'd evacuation.
Okay. So you need at least 1 ship, right?
Work.
So I would just take day as hours. You got 6 champions. Why wouldn't you do that? And sharpshooters,
that's
right?
That's true, yeah.
No downside. Nobody's killing all 6 of your champions.
Yeah. The double navigator also hurts a lot too, because it's multiple chances to just cripple.
Oh man, rolling 12 dice and just slowing things down to a crawl. Oof.
It's brutal.
Yeah. No, this ain't fun. Definitely, only a list that can alpha strike it out is able to take care of it.
Like imagine if Raptors were 160. Holy good lord, would we be spamming them like just like this?
I think there's a certain style of Soulblight that can deal with this.
Yeah, I had a partner who ran that. Like he could deal with it because he just swarms the board with 220 zombies and 5 wards, and it's like, cool, you killed 1 unit of 20 zombies.
Oh, it's back.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Richie McCallie. Going 8-0 is a huge feat. I don't want to, complain about Caradron all night. You still built the right army. You piloted it well, and you had that last little bit of luck you needed. So, congratulations on a well-fought victory. I'm sure.
Yeah, this is bomb. This is such a cool list. Well done.
Yeah, even if an army is overpowered, a good person still has to pilot it, like a good player, and
absolutely.
And they have to put the pieces together, right? That's an important part of this game, is putting the pieces together and then piloting it well.
Yeah, Thunderbolt Volley just being its own way doesn't mean you'll automatically go 5-0. You still need to know how to apply it and where to apply it. Yep.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Let's take a look at our next list. Soulblight Gravelords Legion of Blood by a Mr. Mark Polinsky. Wow, what about that? All right, Mark, tell us about your list, man, and tell us about your matchups, too, because you fought a gamut of lists, right? Like, you fought a lot of strong armies, cool. And I think I know the player behind each one of these lists, so I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on each matchup.
Yeah, so it's Legion of Blood list. I'm gonna try and not go through like the generic stuff that you see, because I think so many people have talked it to death, but I'll try to like cold note it as much as I can and talk about the things that are a little bit different with my list as opposed to a lot of the other Legion of Blood
Yeah,
lists that
because
you see.
Legion of Blood
Yeah.
is the most common way to play Soulblight these days. Because it gives people the big punchy monsters, it gives people the big Blood Knight block with the ethereal, and people really like these things, and they're strong and good to use. So what makes your list different from those?
Mainly it's the command entourage. A lot of people go for two drop. I'm going for 4 drop. The reason why I don't care about those drops is because I know Neferata, along with 3 other units, are going to be able to redeploy. That's Neferata's Dwarf Girl ability.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like knowing what my opponent's going to do and seeing how they're going to deploy, I have free reign of being able to make that decision because both the Right King, all 3 of my units are all going to be able to start in grave sites. So they're not even going to be on the board. They're going to come typically from grave sites a lot of the time. And really what makes it different is the command entourage gives me Right King with Amulet of Screams. It's not a common artifact that you see in a lot of these lists. Amulet of Screams is perfect for dealing with magic heavy armies. So I tailored the list mainly to have something that can be annoying to any magic based army.
For people who aren't familiar with the amulet, can you let them know what it does? Because it is a strong artifact. You're right.
Yeah. So any unit that is within 18 inches of the model that has the amulet, every time they successfully cast after the effects of the spell have gone off, on a 3-up, they'll suffer D3 mortal wounds. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you're causing your opponent to suffer mortal wounds every time they cast in their hero phase. Which on multicast units like, for example, Teclis, that's potentially 4d3 damage in the hero phase to that hero that's just going to be auto casted. And even just to the units like Sentinels, all those, I'm using this in the Luminath context because all those units cast, every single time any of those heroes cast Power of Hish, taking D3, taking D3, taking D3.
Mm-hmm. And you've put this on a White King who can just pop out of reserve in range immediately. Correct. So the fact that he's like a 5 or 6 inch move hero doesn't matter. And when he gets resurrected, does he keep his artifact or is it a new replacement unit?
He does keep his artifact.
Okay.
So Fueled with Gurish Rage. Now, obviously, what ends up happening a lot of the time is the Right King becomes the target for my opponent. So they're going to invest so many resources. If it's shooting, if I'm dealing with a shooting army, I'll generally bodyguard him with 10 Death Rattle skeletons. So I'll say, okay, do you have Galatian sharpshooters? If not, okay, you have to shoot all of these Death Rattle skeletons first. And if you don't kill them all, they're all going to come back. And then you have to kill the Right King. Like, wait, you allocated all these resources to killing this 5-1 hero on a 3-up, fueled by Gurish Rage means he's back. And then, okay, great, you killed him. Well, guess what? He's coming back on a 3-up during my turn, on a 4-up during your turn with the summonable. So he's the most irritating hero.
Yep, for sure.
He's just never going away. And he's also GC, so just awesome.
And you can just revive him onto objectives, and that's really crucial. Yeah. I think what's the name of that battle plan? Only the Worthy or Path of the Champions or something?
Only the Worthy, where only GC, if it's GC's contesting it, then you can't take it away unless that GC.
Was that in the pack at this tournament?
That was when I was playing the Mirror with Soulblight. And it's actually the thing that won me the Mirror because I was able to put my Right King and my Vampire Lord on the objectives, on those 2 objectives. It meant now I was holding those 2 objectives quite firmly. And the fact that he's summonable also meant that even though I lost him eventually throughout the game, I was able to bring him right back. And then on top of that, bring back another unit of direwolves in front of him. So, like, literally there was no way my opponent could get that Right King without having to go through a screen and then go through the hero again.
Yeah. Have you considered using Stubbornness of Rhinox instead of Gurish Rage to just count as 10 instead of the revive once. I think the revive's once per game. He doesn't revive, like, when you bring him back, he doesn't have it again, right?
No, yeah, the Fuelful Gersh Rage is a once per thing, once per game thing, and then it's gone. Yeah, I've definitely thought about serving it as a Rhinox. Oftentimes, I'm not super concerned about counting as so many models on the objective, especially when with this list, like I have 10 direwolves, I have 10 skeletons, and
in this faction, basically.
In this faction, right? Like I can turn off wards, things that I'm thinking of that are like really difficult to remove and are a lot of bodies. I have enough output. I have the ability to turn off wards. So most things that are going to be on the objective and just sit there and be really difficult to move and shift normally won't be normally difficult to shift in Legion of Blood for that reason. Especially when you're, hitting on modified 2s with your minions and you have all of those bigger benefits there.
I really like your Blood Knights. I don't see a lot of people doing that. I see people going to Empire Lord on Zombie Dragon. They really like GCs in their list. I see them spamming 50 to 60 skeletons, maybe zombies even. But the fact that you have a lot of speed in your list and you actually went with the 10 Blood Knight option, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I tend to like to be on the objective as quickly as possible. I'd like to play aggressive. That's just my play style. I don't like to hang back. I'm not the kind of person who's just like giant blob of thing on objective. Like 60 zombies do not sound appealing. 60 zombies are great, but 60 zombies are not appealing to me because they are very okay. I'm here on the objective. I'm not doing anything else.
A boring playstyle for sure.
It's a boring playstyle. And it also creates a little bit of a negative play experience for your opponent because now they're like, I have to clear this unit, and whatever they usually throw into them, zombies are going to usually lift in response a lot of the time because of that 5-up mortal wounds every time a model from that unit dies.
Oh, it's great. You make 0 attack rolls, but you kill the enemy unit. It's wonderful.
Yeah. You just sit there and you're like, you died because you came into me. Some other things are the direwolves. Direwolves are oftentimes something you don't see a lot of.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. I get why people are spamming zombies right now, but if and when they nerf zombies, direwolves are the next stupid thing that everybody's going to pivot to because they're so strong. Like 130 points for 20 wounds that can pop up out of reserve, that can be revived with 5 models, that have a 10-inch move and a 6-inch pile-in. Their damage doesn't even matter. Like it just doesn't matter when you have all that movement utility in an otherwise slow army. Like it's so gross.
In the every matchup where I had to deal with shooting, it was the direwolves that saved me because that 6-inch pile-in meant, oh great, you have this screen. Oh, there's this opening that I can fit this model through. Great. Now I've stopped you from being able to unleash hell because now I've tagged your archers.
Yep.
And now I'm not getting removed, so guess what? Next turn, it's Deadly Invocation. Okay, great. Now I can bring back with Deadly Invocation. You have the ability to heal, and you just bring back more direwolves, and you just they're a constant nuisance with that 6-inch pile-in.
Did you play a lot of Soulblight or Second Edition in general?
I played a bit. I originally started collecting Lumineth, and then I jumped ship to Soulblight.
In hindsight, it's a good choice.
Yeah. I did not want to paint that army.
Yeah. You get tired of painting a new army every year with your annual Battletome.
Yeah. No, not down for that.
Well, so I mentioned that because in 2nd edition, 6-inch pile-in was like one of the top abilities. It was up there with Retreat and Charge and as one of the best abilities. And in 3rd edition, they have almost completely removed 6-inch pile-ins from the game. There's like Sisters of Slaughter, Direwolves, a few like enhancements on heroes there, but it's
Cavalry's Death Riders have it, but on the charge, it's very conditional now. But unconditional is really.
It's a very powerful ability and very sneaky and very useful. One of the big reasons is because you tie down units, not just shooters, but just anything. You've got disposable trash that turns into the most useful unit in the game because it prevented an opponent it forced them to retreat or it prevented them from moving properly. Like, it's just so good to have a 6-inch pile-in this game. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's what oftentimes when me, like, against the Karajan Overlords player, playing Mike Singh, and like amazing dude.
Mhm.
What was super annoying for him was he, he removed this unit of 10 direwolves, which were forced him to actually allocate a lot of resources into just trying to remove because they're 20 wounds
Yep.
on a type up save. So he actually had to invest a lot of output into removing them. And then the moment he did, well, he moved off the object. He moved off his one of the objectives that he was trying to take. And then at the end of the movement phase, of course, I put 5 wolves back on that objective. So he, even though he got this like double, he thought, okay, I'm now going to be able to kill out the targets. Oh wait, that objective that I just fought so hard to get now is about to be stolen from me by 5 direwolves. Gotta now kill them. And
Yep.
now he had to address all this firepower there. So it's the idea of just constantly having to clear out the chaff before you get to these key pieces.
And
that's super annoying.
You clear them out, and then you have to stay in the spot on the objectives. You like against a lot of other armies, how you can play is you hold an objective and you can just leave it because you control it until your opponent gets it. So like if your opponent doesn't have teleports or anything like that, you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna go use this unit somewhere else. I'm not gonna keep it back. And or like even if you keep one unit back, that's still not enough against Soulblight because you revive more than 3 from enemies, which means unless they're screening out exactly the limit of where you can revive, you just can't protect your objectives, right? And that requires usually a lot more resources than something like a simple screening unit. It actually requires like real units that you have to dedicate, and that's a big positional victory.
For sure, and like in certain lists where you're gonna have more bodies, people are reinforcing their units. That's really what you're gonna have to assess as the opponent. You're gonna have to be like, okay, I'm bringing all min size, so you know that I can always have 5 models on objective.
Yep.
So always making sure that if it's your objective, always have 6 models, or just ensuring that you have, if you already have it, you already control it, at least 5 models on that objective that is not going to immediately be taken away from you the moment that a unit pops on.
Oh yeah. Soulblight's one of the reasons I'm strongly reevaluating Stubborn as a Rhinox with every army, because like the fact that they can just drop 5 or 10 models on there is really, really good. And Stubborn as a Rhinox just stops it, right? It stops that tactic, which is really, really useful.
For sure.
Not completely, right? Because like there's still other bodies, but like just that tactic on its own.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's also like the direwolves because they can keep up with the Blood Knights actually as a screen. Because normally you have to deep strike them, which
Yeah,
for sure.
Their redeployment potential is huge too. People are sleeping on direwolves, man. They are. I think direwolves are the most busted unit in that book. They're so good for 130 points.
They also have battle tactic wise options as well.
No, but like this list is good. Yeah, he's right. Battle tactic wise, but also like playing direwolves requires thinking though. Why would you want to think when your chaff can just murder things while dying?
Like zombies are just kind of
yes, like direwolves is the next thing, but it's like you need skilled players like Mark here to properly take advantage of them. Or you could just have 60 zombies, and as they kill the zombies, they just kill their entire army doing it, and then you don't even do anything on your turn. You just give them the double. You say like, yeah, keep going, man. I don't care.
Once they make zombies 3-inch mortals, that'll be when direwolves rise.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the case.
I think personally, I think it'll be direwolves and skeletons. Skeletons for 85 points for 10 wounds. That's the next. That's pretty gross. The fact that they resurrect at the start of every combat phase.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that the most recent FAQ did not have anything for zombies.
What are your thoughts on that FAQ overall? Because the OBR one was devastating. Like I don't think anybody predicted that. That was like Stormcast levels of nerf.
No, it messed up the internal balance of the book completely.
So bad.
Yeah, it was a rules clarification more than anything else. It was just them going, hey, these are the things. And I deliberately when I was playing Soulblight, practicing with Soulblight, I deliberately kept things in mind that I knew were going to immediately get FAQ'd, so I didn't form bad habits.
Like the Neferata redeployment.
I'm not going to play that like it's going to break the battle plan. That is not going to serve me well when I play, and I know it's going to get FAQ day one, and I was right. And I was like, okay, great. I know that that's done.
Yeah.
The nerf, it's like a very, very small nerf to Neferata's spell, it being no longer positive or negative, I mean, a lot of people were crying about it and being really upset about it, and I get it. It's a spell that's not changed for like since the War Scroll for Neferata was written. Like it's something that's been grandfathered over for quite some time, uh, and it was never a problem back then. And now, obviously, with Legion of Blood,
Well,
like it's become a
that's the
problem.
context of the book, right? It's like it was
Yeah,
okay in a time when Soul Blade, everything sucked in Soul Blade.
Yeah.
well,
That was like the
100%.
one good
Yeah,
thing you could do. You did not have things returning on your opponent's turn. Your summonables would
yeah.
get absolutely destroyed in melee, that sort of thing.
And that was the
Uh,
thing. You couldn't score before, so
mhm.
you're trading something for something, and I don't hate
Yeah.
that. Like I was like that just makes the game a little bit better and more fair and feels less nasty.
Mhm.
You know, the 2-up unrendable felt yeah
So there's
a
nothing
little
wrong with a 3-up and vulnerable save. Let's be
No,
completely honest.
not even
listen,
close.
nothing wrong with it at all, especially
Yeah.
when you heal 6.
Yeah, it's like or like put it on two things. There's two things in your army that are hammer dedicated units. As
Yeah.
like dedicated Stormcast players on this channel, we would kill for a 3-up and vulnerable save.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I will say though, like when you compare Blood Knights to the Fulminators, we do not hit like Fulminators, but
No,
we
but
like, and they're still gross. Blood Knights during a run, they still do hit, uh, but I've found they are way more the anvil than the hammer. So a lot of the time, you know, I'm even using them in most of my games. They,
I actually agree. I
yeah,
think Blood Knights are overcosted. I think your summonables are undercosted. I think if Blood Knights went down 30 points and your summonables like skeletons went to 100, zombies maybe 130, direwolves maybe 150, that would actually be better.
yeah.
I think when we
And
see
only,
go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say the only other thing I that's different about my list that I'd like to mention is just about Vampire Lord and the Corpse Cart. The Corpse Cart, I know a lot of people were like scratching their heads about why I would bring the Corpse Cart. Corpse Cart does nothing for me as far as its ability other than it gives me +1 to cast. So for 70 points, I can make a decision to choose Cogs, which makes my casting a bit more reliable, or Corpse Cart. And I chose Corpse Cart um, because it gives you the +1 to cast, and it gives you an extra unit to be on a backline objective. And having just +2 to cast with Neferata, Vampire Lord, and the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon was like incredibly useful for Waste Away to be able to debuff a unit with Waste Away that spell. For neg 1 to wound, neg 1 to damage, and then Vampire Lord. The biggest thing I love about the Vampire Lord, his job is just to cast Spirit Gale and be at the back of the board. Sure, he can get objectives, but mainly the White King does that on his own. The Vampire Lord literally sits at the back of my board outside of Unbind ranges, outside of 30, just casting. And in the Caradron Overlords game I played, for example, I did over 50 wounds over the course of 2 turns through one spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If,
That bonus to cast, man, also helps.
Yeah.
Hey man, that +1 to cast is +2 to
It's
cast is
so-
really important. As someone who played Archon into 2 SBG lists, that difference between +1 and +2 is you getting your Dark Mist or you not getting your Dark Mist. It lets you compete with Archon's Unbinding.
Yeah. And 100% agree that Cogs was not the play, because Cogs, you can interact with that way more easily. Like if you're spending time to kill the Corpse Cart, you're not killing anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, you're with that damage,
Corpse Cart
And
is a
Corpse Cart's
unit.
gonna be-
It takes up
Yeah.
space. Cogs have to be cast, which is a spell given up. They have to not be
Yep.
unbound. They have to not get dispelled at the start of your turn. Like there's so many
There's
conditions
so
for
much-
Cogs.
Yeah. Just no. Throw that out. Corpse Cart, it's a unit, and it's gonna be in the back, so like you've got to dedicate like shooting to it pretty much. It's like who's gonna do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. This is the right play.
Miscasting on Neferata's got to suck. I bet.
It definitely does happen. But again, like that's the pleasure of this army. I never felt like I'm in a bad spot. I played this actually exact list against Jordan on his channel, Season of War. And like we played DOK. And I don't know anything that can survive the Daughters of Pain double and in like a perfect position. And I was like, he full on doubled me, and I was able to crawl back, and it was it was fantastic. I've had moments where I've literally looked at it and I've gone, so it's so many of these when I was playing at the tournament even. or I'm going, oh, I'm in a really bad spot. Like I don't think I can take this back, or I've lost like 10 Blood Knights, even though I'm on a 2-up on Rendable, and I've managed to crawl it back just because bodies bring stuff back, having all of those bigger pieces like Nephron and the Vampire Lord doing the work, moving around. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk matchups because I'm curious. If you want to give me a short or long answer, I'm good either way. But I kind of want to talk about how you approached each one of these matchups. On Fire Slayers, I think I can guess you shut off the wards and that was it, right? Like it's pretty much it, right? That's all it takes there.
Yeah.
Fire Slayers are a very strong army right now, but as soon as they face something that can shut off wards or shut off commands in a wide area, so they can't Inspiring Presence, so they can't rally back, like they just fall apart if they don't have those two things, or just one of the two.
Yeah.
If one is missing, they fall apart.
Ask Nurgle players how they're feeling.
Yeah, I feel bad for them.
Imagine paying points for a 5-up ward across your army against this list.
Yikes.
I've gotten over my hatred of Nurgle. In second edition, I hated them. I feel bad for them now. Okay, so Caradron, you were saying that you were pulling him constantly around the map. Because Caradron have like 12 and 18-inch range guns, and you were able to. It sounds like you were able to take advantage of that, pulling him in one direction to kill something, and then reviving behind him, which sounds really cool. That's an awesome playstyle. I like that.
Playing Nidus Path was what we were playing, and I remember that game really, really well. It was just a ton of fun. I played Simeon before. I actually played him at a small RTT, and we both brought kind of different lists. This time, obviously, I was playing Old Soul Blight, and he was playing, and now he was playing KO. We were pivoting more towards Thunderers, and going from his other list, which had just a lot of the Balloon Boys, and it was just seeing like how he positioned, obviously, like any KO player in the very back of the board, with me not being able to do really anything to him. I was like, okay, I can take the turn and spread out and try to screen as much as I can. And with the deep striking from the Dire Wolves, from the Death Rattle, from the Right King, I was able to like clog up most of the board, keeping the valuables really separated, but kind of at the back. So my Blood Knights were protected generally from that shooting, just that first turn. Neferata and my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon were all kind of okay and protected in the back, and waited for what was inevitably going to come, which was he obviously used the Soul Scream Druid. She brought them into position into like the centerish part of the board. Shot off Dire Wolves, shot off my screens, which is what I need him to do in order to get my grand strategy as well, which is Empire Corpses. I need 3 of my summonable units to die and then have come back. And that's oftentimes while I'll be also very aggressive with them as well. And I really just controlled 3 of the objectives for as much as I could for about 3 turns. There's a bit of time where he's trying to wrestle one objective off of me, but because I could constantly bring stuff back onto it, it meant that he was kind of forced to have to pull in and engage. I used my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon to lock a lot of the army in, kind of sacrificing the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon over the turns. The Cloak of Mist and Shadows with that 3-up meant the 3-up unrendable meant I was able to kind of engage most of his army, and most of his army had to fight me and shoot me off over the course of 2 turns. So turn 2 and turn 3, maybe even into 4, was like dedicated to killing the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. And he eventually did it, but it meant it was at the cost of scoring. Meanwhile, Neferata and the Blood Knights are like slowly making their way onto the opposite side of the board and grabbing his home objectives and dealing with what's not as supported, where he doesn't have as many models. There's really maybe only like a hero and one of the smaller boats, the gun hauler, and trying to just address them in the back corner. And then Key Knights.
What kind of list were they playing? Are they playing this stupid like 7 units of Bliss Bar nonsense that people are doing these days?
I'm trying to remember how many units. I know it was lots of Blissbarb archers. There was 2 units, I think, though, of Blissbarb seekers. So I don't think he had 7 units of just the archers.
It would have
He
been.
had a bit more
He meant
variety.
70, but yeah, it would have been 3 units by 70. It's a list that
Yeah.
Josh Bennett's been playing, but it's
No.
what should we call it?
So no, not that one. This was 10 seekers. I remember that distinctly.
The archer seekers or the melee ones?
Melee ones.
Okay.
And then another
Mhm.
5 and 5 of the archer seekers.
Is it a single block of 10 of the melee guys?
Single block of 10.
I've been seeing that more often, and I'm not impressed by it. I'm not sure why people are reinforcing that unit, because it's just going to hit something and then the opponent cleans it up.
Yeah.
And it's not durable enough to really tie anything down, and it's not like you're going to get more points in depravity from euphoric killers. Like sometimes you'll hit 60 zombies, cool, but like 5 guys is enough. Like 2x5 is probably even better, right? So I'm not sure why people are reinforcing it. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I don't understand that play personally.
Yeah, it was very much like an alpha, and it went right into Direwolves, and he obviously got a massive amount of depravity from it, but at the risk of now having that unit obviously be fully in the open. Blood Knights went in. Blood Knights actually didn't lift the unit. They did a little bit of damage. They brought it down to around a bit past half on the charge, and then throughout the course of like the next 2 turns, really just whittled them down like one by one. The problem for me was he really trapped me in my own deployment. So it was quite a slog to pull out because that neg 1 to hit. I know I have Doom minions, but Doom minions only works on the units you pick, and it's hard to pick those units when you're talking about Flinish because you want to kill everything, and everything is not super durable necessarily. Like, but it's still they're all such high wound values. So I try to go for the Bliss Barbs and obviously that unit of 10. But my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon like never engaged with the Doom minions, so he was oftentimes so busy just trying to clear Bliss Barb archers from behind because he has the fly, and dealing with things like that, dealing with the Seekers, and he did well. Like he definitely did his job in clearing those models, but it just meant I was really heavily pinned turn 1, turn 2, and kind of turn 3 finally managed to kind of break free and start grabbing all the objectives. Now the biggest problem too with Heathen Knights is he went for the no summon. Grant.
Yeah, Selfish Desire. Yeah, I'm looking at the list. Yeah,
that's why you don't do that. You don't want to be limited tactically that way.
Oh, yeah, it was really cool as far as like stacking all those buffs up and getting all those buffs off was really awesome, and it was really fun to watch just to see how much you could get from euphoric killers, how easily he could get to 36. It was quite hard to like deal with or to try and stop, but it did mean that not having any kind of summons meant like later on
you just lost body count eventually.
You just lost body count, right? Like you have nothing else on the board, and you can't put yourself out of that problem by trying to summon something on.
Because you lose 3 points immediately.
Yeah. So you can't even like try and help yourself out of that situation because you've lost too many units.
Even if you regain the depravity by summoning in demonettes who then immediately charge and euphoric killers and get it back, like you've just lost 3 victory points, right? And that can be the game. 1 victory point is often the game these days, right? Not max scoring once in 5 rounds is enough to lose you a game. So yeah. All right, so talk about the mirror. Was that the worst game you've ever played, or what?
No, Matt is an amazing player. Matt K, love that man. We had a great game. We both knew we didn't want to play the mirror. We both kind of went in and been like, oh, neither of us want this. And he, like a legend, on turn 2 made like the gutsiest play I've ever seen. Both of our Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragons met in the center of the board,
All right.
and wet noodled each other. And then he eventually said, "Okay, I'm gonna YOLO Neferata in and see if she can get the wound off."
Oh.
And
Oh
I
no.
managed to save every single one. There was other things that I missed, but what I did save was every single one of the daggers, and at that point it was over.
Yeah, you
It
just
was
turn around and kill Neferata.
Yeah, they just turned around and killed Neferata. He didn't end up getting Dark Mist off too on that turn that he sent her in, and it was
Oh,
just done
that's
deal from there.
calculated mistake right there.
Yeah. And he knew it. He knew it. He was just like, "I'm gonna just go for it. Let's just
Yeah.
have some fun." So, you know what? Like, kudos for going for the big play. I like his list a lot. I went for obviously more heroes and more kind of flexibility as far as how to deal with magic with the corpse cart and with the right king. He went for more just raw output. So instead of the right king and corpse cart, he's bringing and I think instead of bringing 2 units of direwolves, he brought another unit of skellies. He also brought 20 graveguard, and 20 graveguard in that list is just
Very
really
good. Yep.
very very good. I obviously effectively screened him out, so there was no great place for them to land. What's also really funny about the Soulblight Grave Lords, and I should mention this, the mirror, is that we both can use each other's gravesite.
Really?
So, yes.
Oh
It's
my.
a silly thing. So there's 8 gravesites that we could have used from each other. And there was just really no great place to land the Graveguard. So he ended up having to kind of deploy them in his own deployment zone. And by the time he lost Neferata, he was seeing the state of the board and going, "Yeah, I don't think this is gonna end well." We kind of called it there. That included with like just the fact that the mission also favored me because it was the one where you have OBSEC essentially with your
champions.
GCs.
Yep.
You control them. Yeah.
I love that mission, by
Yeah,
the way.
so
It's one of the reasons this season actually has good battle plans, because there's tiny little bonuses like that for playing champions, and it feels good.
yeah, and that's really what won me it. He did have a vampire lord, and there was one objective where we both like couldn't control because we both had a vampire lord on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the right king is really what came clutch because it meant I could hold one of those objectives no problem.
Right.
Every turn.
That's how you win games, is by scoring, right?
yeah, and that's really ultimately what got me that one. And then my last game against Lumina.
Yeah, was this like a techless build or like a Helon 60 Sentinel build?
No, so it was Light Trick.
Okay.
Yeah,
was 15 Blade Lords and
50 Blade Lord
40.
block.
Yeah, 15 block of Blade Lords.
Seems really good against Vampire.
Against 2x20 Sentinels.
Yeah. 2 units of 20 Sentinels. Yeah, I used. So at this event,
hold on? Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
Can I take a guess how the game went? You went first. You clogged up the board. He didn't have enough damage to kill at you.
Sorry, he went first? Is that what you said?
You went first. Probably they're Lumineth, so they're going Battle Regiment, so they force you to go first, and they're hoping for a double. And you said, okay, I'll take the whole board. And then Lumineth, being Lumineth, don't have the damage to kill you out of that situation. Although 15 Blade Lords could do a lot.
15 Blade Lords.
That's a problem unit for you. But it can only be in one place at a time, and there's no redeploys or teleports or anything, so I think I'm going to stick with my original guess. Was it accurate?
There's a better story to it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually, he took first.
Okay.
He took first. I went second. I activated the objective, obviously, where his Lore Seeker was not. So he had a Lore Seeker in the list that he used for lone agents, and I obviously activated the objective that was in the exact opposite direction of wherever his Lore Seeker was.
Smart.
And because we had terrain that was player placed, I had placed a Wildwood right in the center of the board, like right mid board.
That would come in handy.
Yeah, it came in huge. It came in very very big handy. So Neferata was nowhere near was not within range of the Sentinels, so she couldn't get shot off turn 1. And my entire unit of Blood Knights was right behind that Wildwood. So it meant they couldn't get shot off turn 1. So the only things you could shoot were direwolves. And my Vampire Lord on the Zombie Dragon was the opposite side of the board where the Blade Lords were.
Mm-hmm.
So he had kind of split his forces into Blade Lord and the Lord Regent, and then everything else was kind of on the other side. 2 units of Sentinels, 2 units of Wardens for screens, and the Lore Seeker. And it meant, like, I obviously placed Blood Knights wherever the Sentinels were because I knew the speed to be able to catch them, get up to them. So eventually he deploys down. He moves a couple of things up, tries to shoot me, doesn't work out. Kills a couple of units of direwolves. Does not even clear out the units.
That's Lumineth, baby.
Yeah, they don't clear out the unit because it's 20 wounds. So great. They all res back, not all way back up to full strength, but kills about half the unit, and they just come right back. Was able to bring back 4 wounds in each unit, and then I just pushed forward with the direwolves, grabbed objectives, obviously dropped down my right king in the center of the board with a unit of skeletons. I managed to stop most of his casts as well, because Neferata's now +1 to Unbind, and he with Zytric is only +1 to cast. So
still surprising you were able to get a lot of spells off him. Do you think with the reactive Aether Quartz he'd get a lot through, and the Shrine?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I knew what, from my experience with Lumineth, I know what a Lumineth wants to cast. And I know what Lore Seeker specifically wants to be able to cast. So he wanted to try and use a lot of his endless spells and chuck them at me. And I stopped a lot of those from being able to occur that first turn.
Nice.
So no endless spells were really cast. He had obviously Power of Hish and his normal stuff that are easy for him to get. And I'm only 4 on binds, so you stop what you can and what you know is important. I think he got total close off, and I was like, cool. Don't need the CP necessarily, not in this list like it used to be. Soulblight used to be very CP hungry, and not anymore. A lot of the abilities are now just baked into War Scroll, so it wasn't a huge deal that I didn't unbind it. Eventually, just moved on to objectives, and he, really played aggressive with his Blade Lords, really pushed them forward, tried to grab eventually my home objective. This is in later turns, but when I activated in turn 2, when I think lost Prio, he took the turn and kept going, and I obviously activated my home objective. He made this big, huge rush with a bunch of Blade Lords, and of course my 6-inch pylon with my Direwolves came in handy, and they just piled in away from them and managed to kill the other unit that he had, which was Lord Regent, that was controlling the other objective. So the Blade Lords made this huge charge, 12-inch charge, all the way to my home objective, and it just meant they lost another objective.
Yep. They could only be in one place at a time.
Yeah, so it was just like constantly watching him do those things. The Right King was amazing, just doing mortal wounds and causing bravery problems everywhere. He started to get really frustrated with it and started to throw things at the Right King, which is exactly what I wanted to happen. So he throws this unit of 10 Wardens into it. The 10 Wardens don't kill the Right King. The Right King turns back and lifts the unit, because the Right King is absolutely disgusting in combat.
That Amulet of Screams is so good into Lumineth.
Yeah.
Just hanging them off, and then as soon as they use the Aether Quartz, suddenly, they take you through mortal wounds, and then, Battle Shock happens, and they lose even more.
Yeah. And everything with that army, too, has terrible terrible bravery.
Yes, it does.
So when you shut off, and when you do mortal wounds to everything in the army as well through Spirit Gale, you just, every turn, you're like, don't forget you have Battle Shock. Don't forget you have Battle Shock. Don't forget you have Battle Shock. Because every single time you're doing 1 mortal wound to the whole army, you're doing 2 mortal wounds to the whole army. And that means, or potentially D3. And that means those small heroes that have 6 wounds are going to get lifted. Those units are all going to run. It's the worst kind of matchup for
Yeah.
Lumineth is a list like this.
Lumineth have a lot of bad matchups these days, it seems. Every new book, I think, is a bad matchup for them. Maybe not KO, but probably KO as well.
Yeah. KO they'll struggle with for sure.
Yeah.
So
Still,
yeah, that was my journey.
Congrats, man! 5-0 through 5 good armies right now. I don't want to call Lumineth a bad army. They got bad matchups, but they're still a strong army overall.
Oh yeah, I mean,
fantastic.
He went 4-0, so 4-1. So
yeah.
Clearly still really, really great, and I think he's been doing really well on the tournament scene, that player.
Sick. So, yeah, I think Lumineth needs to pivot into something else to be successful this season. But I think by the time they figure it out, the season will be over. So it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
There's like what, 4 weeks left, maybe a month tops, right? Like it's not much. Yeah. All right, sweet dude. Thank you very much for breaking this down for us. I guess we can have a longer discussion about Soulblight in general when we get to the tier list at the end of our live stream here. Checking the time, it seems like we're doing okay because we went pretty quick on the Dracoth stuff. All right, let's talk next list, Fire Slayers. Thank you, Dan, for finding this list because I have been predicting this exact list for Fire Slayers since the season started. I know, Morgonk, you were hot on that like double 2x15 Hearthguard list, and I was like, bro, that's great, but you gotta just spam Volkites. Just spam Volkites and win because they're so good right now. People have even gone into double Flamekeeper, it looks like, and they're doing well. Yeah, man, this is the form I saw Fire Slayers playing. Like the Volkites are very good in Vostark. 2s and 2s on the charge, just a buttload of attacks. Every single model that dies empowers you further and gives you counter charge potential. Beautiful, awesome list. And look at these matchups. What the heck? Where are all these Flesh Eater Court players hiding, man?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh my god. Morgonk, what do you think about this list as a fellow Fire Slayers enjoyer?
I mean, yeah, I don't have this many Volkites. I don't know if I'm gonna paint this many Volkites in time. But yeah, this is the typical. You normally see like a big block of 30 Volkites, but I guess I was too immobile and static. But yeah, this just wants to stack buffs from the Flamekeeper, use the pole axes as the primary anvil, and use a bunch of Volkites to just keep countercharging you, keep killing you. I don't know how this would do into OBR. They seem really, really tough and resistant to this kind of gameplay because Volkite Berserkers have no rend, and I guess you could give them -1, but OBR still don't care about that. And Fire Slayers can't do anything to their ward saves either, so maybe this list is gonna go down in popularity.
The Magmadroth can roar. And if those are pole axes, right, the mortal wounds, you get enough volume, and you can cut through some stuff.
Yeah, it's just hard to play. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think there was one list I saw from Jeremy Viscere that was 3 Auric Heartguard, 1 Heartguard Berserkers, I think 4 to 5 Grimrat Berserkers. That was the other big list that was making the rounds. But yeah, like Volkite spam and 2 double Flamekeeper does work. I mean, people don't expect that you can charge them and pop the damage, or you can stack the buffs. So you could charge 2 things, or you could stack double damage. Yep. And it's very easy to get Volkites killed. They die like flies, and yeah, what's better than a Battlesmith just issuing rally to them, you know?
Yeah.
Just do it.
If you can't kill the Battlesmith through Gurish Rage, you're going to have a rough time in this matchup, because they're just going to keep retreating on their own turn, and then countercharging in your turn. It's so dumb. But I love it. I love what Fire Slayers have turned into. I'm looking forward to the next edition of the game, let's say.
Quick question on this tournament here.
Yeah.
Was this before or after the Nightmare Quest box came out?
This was May 14th, so before.
Okay.
Yeah, those just came out 2 weeks ago, right?
This was just that many Flesh Eater Courts players in a row.
Amazing.
Do we have any Flesh Eater Court players in the area, James?
Yes, actually, a couple.
Okay. All right, you gotta put me in with them.
Ottawa.
Okay, that's only a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, it's not far at all for you guys, I'm sure. But apparently out there, there's a ton of Flesh Records players.
Based.
Just a thing.
All right. Looking at just a Slanesh, not a Hedonites of Slanesh build, Dan.
Oh, I don't know how this even happened. But yeah, it's Hedonites of Slanesh Pretenders, so he's got the multi commands going on. Surprisingly, keeping it real conservative at 30 Blissbarb Archers only.
Ooh, only. Nice.
Only.
Traditional Slanesh player.
Yeah, so he went for one set of each of the Seekers. You got one set of melee, one set of the shooting Seekers. Shard Speaker is something I don't see as much as I thought I would. Shard Speaker's pretty good.
I think there's reasons for that. The 4-up, man, it sucks.
Yeah, it does. He's got the mask, which is great for tying some things up, some early depravity. Generally, a good little Swiss Army knife of a unit in that army. Contorted Epitome is the auto include of the army, without a doubt. It's just such a good model. But yeah, he's got the archers. He went for some demon nets.
There's
10 Painbringers.
There's some weird stuff in here.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of
10 Endwars I get. They're a cheap screen. They're the skinks of chaos, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Reinforced Painbringers, that's pretty weird. And then 6 Furies. That's really weird. And of course the Cockatrice. Everybody loves it, right? It's the best best rule in the game.
That's not that weird.
4 up
included in Slanesh.
4 up win the game. It's the best, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you charge my Bliss Barbs, eat 3 Unleash Hells, and then you only hit on 6s. Cool. So silly. Yeah, that's weird. What are these Furies doing?
It beats me. I'll be honest. I don't know, Bergonk, have you ever seen anything like this?
They do retreat instead of fighting, which is cool.
Yeah, they retreat instead of fighting.
Yeah, I don't know what this is all over the place.
There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on, and I'm not sure how they won anything. This seems like the kind of list like you would just absolutely destroy playing a faction like KO or anything really.
Big tournament. This was the Ironworld Open with 57 players.
Where is this?
In Massachusetts.
Massachusetts? Okay, I was like, maybe this is like a European tournament because like
no, this is like
weird.
Northeast. Like you've got some decent players.
Guess, like
I don't know.
Went up against.
This is someone who's just really good at movement. I want to say.
I guess so.
He just has a lot of bodies.
Joe Pagano's list with all the zombies.
Yeah, it's like he just like floods the board. If anyone, it's like it plays like kind of like Soul Blade. If anyone makes a mistake of going first, he just plugs the board with a bunch of stuff. It keeps shooting you, keeps generating depravity. Use the Myrmidesh as like a really sturdy anvil. Puts them on a central objective with like a Mystic Shield or something, or like just outside. So if they take it, then they go in with a 2-up save or a 1-up save even. And then the mask to generate depravity turn 1, kind of like how Josh Bennett does it. Shard Speaker to reduce saves. It's just control and movement. Cockatrice is in there for turning off attacks. Fury's in there for just cheap bodies.
He's really relying on summoning things in to really keep the gas going here.
I like the Demonettes. Demonettes are very underrated. They're a very strong unit. People really don't understand how much damage that unit does.
He's got them as a min unit, though. I don't know if he really included them for...
that's enough. That's enough, trust me. They do ridiculous damage.
They're Chaos Witch Elves.
Yeah, they're Witch Elves.
Yeah, they are Chaos Witch Elves. What I want to know is how he beat Marcella on Ironjaws that game 3. Because Ironjaws is not an easy matchup for this army.
Yeah, maybe, I guess unless they get lucky with the Cockatrice or the Myrmidesh just tank a bunch, Ironjaws is not a good matchup for this army.
Probably what it was. But it was probably 4-up Cockatrice win the game. Classic story. The oldest
story.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, as minor as that is, if you hit the 4-up every time, you're winning the game. Like, that effect is just so powerful on a 4-up. Like, we don't think it'll go off half the time. Where there'll be games where it'll go off literally every single combat, and then you will just win off the backs of that. If you turn off like the Maw Crusher or whatever, or turn off like a big Immortus Guard block, the game's over, right?
Crown of Dark Secrets one unit,
handle
and then Cockatrice the other. Probably.
He also went Glutton for Depravity as well. So I don't.
Yeah. He was going pretty greedy for. Yeah.
Huh.
He's not summoning anything. Which
is like... No. He's able to summon, but he just doesn't want to because he's got to have enough by the end of the game.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
This is like the kind of lists I make for Seraphon, and I have you guys scratching your heads like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like this reminds me of that.
It's cool.
But
Yeah.
hey, yeah, well done. I mean, I think it's awesome. That's why I really wanted to include this list, is that it's a Slanesh list that doesn't just, not no offense to Josh Bennett, great player. I mean, I would do it too if I was playing Slanesh and I had 70, Bliss Barbs, I would be running that list. But this is some finesse right here.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of this is going to be like triple redeploys as well. That's going to be pretty key.
Yeah, even
Cool.
some triple Unleash Hells. Well, actually, it'll only be double, right? Because it's only for Slanesh units, I think.
All right, moving on to the next list. What kind of crazy person plays Crematorians before the OBR nerfs happened? This was before the nerfs, Mergonk, or after?
This was
It was before.
Okay, so
like,
you had the choice of playing Petrifex, and you were like, nah, not doing that. Gonna go Crematorians.
No. Yeah, 5-up explosions, like I was wishing I had better Blaze of Glory. And yeah, Crematorians gives you that. This was also the thing. They were saying they would use all the clarifications, so FAQs, but not the erratas. And the Godstar Harvester was a straight up errata. They've ruined it now. Post FAQ, the internal balance of this book is shot. Mortec Guard and Harvesters don't have a purpose.
Oh, they're dead.
So if you're looking to buy OBR, buy Cavalos Death Riders, buy the Immortus Guard box, which is sold out too, by the way. People are Stalkers and Immortus Guard, which is sold out too now, by the way. So yeah, the main anvil of this list is the 20 Mortec Guard with the Harvester and reanimating them. 5 Cavalos Death Riders because they're the best value unit in the book. They give you speed, they give you attacks, they give you 6-inch pylons, they give you the ability to fly over opponent screens with a big enough charge and just hit something behind them, which I did use multiple times because you can declare that after you see what your charge number is. It's effectively like the timing of it can be the same as rerolling a charge. So I have charged over a Ungor screen with a 10-inch charge and hit a Bulgor hero, whatever that name is, Doom Bull, and just absolutely murdered it with Cavalos Death Riders.
Nice.
Archon the Black because he's really good. Knowing all the spells is good. Extending the range of your spells to 24 inches is insane.
Yep.
Is insanely good. Soul Release is an insane spell. It automatically wins you the game against like something like Beasts of Chaos, where they can't even come near.
Yeah, and 18-inch range, right?
No, they ruled that as 12. But
still?
because it says range from the caster, not range of the spell. So it's the range of effect. It's the range of effect. Now how far the spell can be.
Do you think that's how it should be, or is that like the FAQ ruling?
I think so. If it was 18-inch range, I could deploy Archon in the middle and nothing would come near me.
Good.
From Beast of Chaos. Anyway, Leech Cavalos also adds to that frustration with diversionary tactics. This was a team tournament, so I was like, don't give me the shooting lists, and I'll just go up against the melee lists. And there were times against like Soulblight Gravelords where I would stack the terrain pieces 4-up, -3 to charge, and the Leech Cavalos is -3 to charge, and he'd be standing 3 inches away from my Leech Cavalos, and I have a 9-inch charge to get to him. So that was pretty frustrating. And then Immortus guarded because I don't want Archon shot off the board. He's really important. The Ossifactor has reinforced constructs for 4 Mortal Wound wards. Tunnel Master because mobility is good on that one mission where like there's 2 objectives on the edges or whatever, like half objectives. The Soul Stealer Carrion really good because I was afraid of fighting Soulblight Vertigo zombie spam and like a bunch of bodies, and it's like cool. I'll just deploy this bird here, and none of your 1 wound model. You want to summon stuff? I don't care. I have Soul Release, so you can't summon here, and I have Soul Stealer Carrion here, so it's not going to count if you summon there. I win. And that won.
What artifact did you pick here? It's not written down.
Oh, sorry. I picked the +1 to wound, the Godsar Cartouche.
Okay.
Giving Mortec Guard +1 to wound.
Cool.
The 9-inch aura of Ossifactors. And Bonetie Shrieker, because reducing wards, canceling out Inspiring Presence and Rally is amazing.
Oh, it's the best endless spell in the game.
Yeah, like if there were times where I would like go into like 30 skeletons, I've killed 20 of them. I'm like, I have the Shrieker here. You're not. That unit's dead.
Yeah.
And because I have Soul Release on an Archon, you will not come near this objective at all. Yeah, I mean this list it works. I lost against Kharadron because I didn't even kill anything in my Kharadron matchups, both of them. But basically the way I played it is I took first. I used the speed of the Cavalos Death Riders to essentially form screens, and I just kept scoring points. I was just hanging on for dear life. Mm-hmm. And in the first one I held on long enough. In the second one I couldn't because I think I made a couple of misplays there too.
Well, this was a team tournament, right? So for people who aren't familiar, team tournaments are different than usually what we cover here. We usually don't talk about team tournaments as well for reasons because you can build skew lists, and then your team can be like, okay, you built a list that has like a 90% loss rate against shooting, but a 90% win rate against everything else. So we're just not going to give you shooting matchups and give you everything else, right? You can do stuff like that in team tournaments. That's an exaggeration. It's never that, well, it might be that severe, but so you told your team, don't put me into shooting, and they put you into 2 shooting matchups.
I mean, sometimes you can't help it because
Yeah.
the way the pairings work is like pretty insane, because it's like you give them 2 lists, and it's like, the other team also like, I would much rather, this is one of those cases where like I was like, I'll take a bad matchup so my team can have good matchups.
Right.
And then you just have to take the bullet for them sometimes, and that's what this was. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to win, but I'm just going to try and score as much as possible so the overall team score as high as possible.
Yep.
And so I scored max as I can on the first one, which was good enough. In the second one, it wasn't, and I think that basically comes down to like what mission it is and like what kind of list they're running. And yeah, like the list is good. OBR is good. I'm just sad Mortec Guard and Harvesters are off the table. I felt like that was very thematic. That was like the thematic thing you did. And Harvesters just don't feel good. Like I'm not even talking about like a power perspective, like mechanically, because it's this giant monster that's supposed to just go around the field collecting everybody's bones, like friendlies and enemies, and just reconstructing them into new soldiers and constructs. And now it's like it picks a unit. It's a recycler. It's not a harvester. It's a recycler.
Yeah, it's recycling.
So I don't know. I don't like it.
Okay.
It's whatever.
I've got one more question about this team. Well, 2 more questions. First off, how'd you guys do overall?
Oh, we did good. I think we got like best general, so it was nice.
Great. Okay. My second question is, can you explain the photo that I've just put up on stream right now? It says AOS Team's Best Painted Team, US Open KC 2023. This is the tournament you went to. And we're looking at a very particularly painted army. You guys can see it on the Discord server in the memes channel. It's, I'm wondering if you could explain this for me, Mergonk. How this photo came to be.
I don't know. I think that might be a meme. I think someone might have
I think that's just a meme.
I know who the best painting team was. Their armies were actually pretty well painted. I think somebody just took that and went to a team with minimal effort and posted that picture for trolling.
Yeah, a good fun.
I was hoping it was real. I was hoping this was the best painted team. No, so okay.
Nah.
No, I think my models are more painted than that, so there's no way.
Okay. All right, I just had to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, congrats, man. I'm sorry that Harvester is not gonna be that good anymore going forward, but
maybe they'll fix it again. They have this tradition of messing about with OBR 2 times. Twice is the charm.
Second time.
Yeah, I just want the Eye of Sauron to come off Stormcast for once. Just leave us alone.
For real.
Honestly, if you could just harvest enemy models, it'd be fine. Like, come on, just be like 1 friendly and 1 enemy within 6 at the start of combat, and at the end of it's like at the start of combat, pick an enemy and friendly unit within 6, and then you can harvest those 2 units that are fighting. So it's like you are now involved in this engagement that is taking place, and you will harvest bones from this engagement. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. It feels like their cycle of the storm change. Too many people ask questions, and they were like, oh, okay, you pissed us off by asking these questions. We're just going to make this useless.
Yeah.
It's that video, man. I forgot that video. Think of how cool it would be to have Cycle of the Storm. If we never made that video, we could be using it right now. It would be so much fun. All right. Let's look at another Soulblight list, another Legion of Blood list. Yeah. Very similar package to the list you use here, Mark. It's got the Vampire Lord, Master of Magic here, interestingly, which is a cool tech choice. I like that. It's got the Vampire Lord on foot. It's got the 2x10 Direwolves. It's got Neferata. But that's where the similarities end, right? He's taken a Necromancer to get access to the very, very strong Death Mage battle lore. He's taken 20 zombies and then 2x20 Graveguard. Give me your take on this list. You're the Soulblight guy here. What do you think?
Oh, it's awesome. I see exactly what he's trying to do here. So his Vampire Lord now with Wild Transference is not just going to heal 6. It's going to heal a lot more than that.
All the time.
Yeah, it's going to heal all the time. With Master of Magic as well, it's now going to be able to re-roll. So if it ends up going in, I'm seeing his pairings. So let's say he goes up against OBR and it's Catacross list. If Catacross is in that list, Catacross is 18 wounds, so he goes, hey, I'm going to try and get Vile Transference on a 9+, and now for every 4 up, and roll 18 dice for every 4 up, it's a mortal wound, and then I heal that much. So
Yeah, Catacross is
that's
20
probably
dice.
what
He's got 20 wounds.
20 wounds? So there you go.
Yeah, 20 wounds, even better.
Even better, 20 dice, and he's going to do 10 mortal wounds, because he's going to try and master magic for that
Yep.
9 to cast, and then it's going to take 10 mortal wounds, and it's going to heal 10 mortal wounds. That's what he's going to try and pull off. Necromancer is in there, and what that Necromancer is doing, more than, like, Feeding Vigor is great. It's -1 to attacks. You cast it on a 9, plus -2 to attacks, the unit. But what Necromancer has is the War Scroll spell for fight in the hero phase.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's doing is he's throwing those Graveguard in, and if those Graveguard don't remove what they're engaged with, and they're still engaged, somehow, that Necromancer is just going to cast Dance Macabre, and those units of Graveguard are just going to remove in the hero phase whatever they're engaged with. 100%, it's just gone. The Vampire Lord actually very cleverly has Tunnel Master as well, and I'm like my most current change, because my list is ever evolving, actually is very similar with the 2 units of Graveguard and the Vampire Lord with Tunnel Master, because the Vampire Lord gives them +1 to attacks, so he's just going to Tunnel Master them within range of wholly within 12, give those Graveguard +1 to attacks, so now they're going to be way more, they're going to be 60 attacks when they go in.
And that +1 also gets through things like Slanesh reducing you to 1 attack, and then the +1 brings you back up to 2, right? Yeah, so it gives you some chance against that.
For sure. Even if you are -1 to attacks, no problem. You have other opportunities.
Yep.
And the Deathwalker zombies obviously are just a thing to be on an objective, to be removed and then brought back.
I still think this is tame. I think this is still tame for what Soulblight can do. You're looking at 84 models and 140 wounds. Those are rookie numbers, man. You got to pump those up. Like, we can do so much better than this. We can hit triple digits on models easy. 200+ wounds. Let's go. Like, this is...
Yeah.
I like that you guys are using big monsters. That makes it easier for everybody else. Like, you're taking pity on us. Once you guys swap to just trash units, the game's, like, functionally over. Nobody's going to want to play Age of Sigmar anymore.
It'll take half the game, all my time, just to be able to deploy all my units down.
Yeah.
and then there won't be any game left.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It'll take 2 rounds, then it'll time out, and whoever went first wins. And it'll usually be the Soulblight player because they're 2-drop in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting is he went for the grand strategy, take what's theirs. I guess I don't really understand the logic there, because Graveguard are also summonable units. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 summonable units in this army, which is pretty much
should have gone Empire.
Hero, which Empire of Corpses is the better bet here. I guess what makes a lot of people really afraid is, well, what if I never get, what if I don't get 3 ups or 4 ups in my opponent's turn throughout a game?
Then they're not being aggressive enough.
You're not being aggressive enough. Yeah, exactly. Like, Graveguard, you can afford them to die. They'll come back. They'll be 10 models. So they're still going to have a great output, even with the Vampire Lord.
Maybe because you put so many points in, because this doesn't have, like, the Blood Knight brick, right? And one of the good things about the Blood Knight brick is there's no opportunity cost in terms of summonable. And I could see that being a problem here, because you can only revive 1 unit per turn. Like, your turn, opponent's turn, but still 1 per turn. And if you're trying to revive the Graveguard, you're not reviving the screens. Whereas in your the version you ran, is like, those Blood Knights, they don't need that resource. And that is a very important resource. It's like a central army resource, right? So if I wouldn't run 2x20 Graveguard. I think I'd rather do, like, just to shore up a couple matchups, I'd bring the Blood Knight brick here instead of 20 Graveguard. I don't know if you could fit them 1-to-1 like that, but yeah.
No, you couldn't. Yeah, you'd have to make some hard choices. Because the 20 Graveguard are 280 points, and that unit of Blood Knights is...
Well, maybe just 5 is enough, and then an endless spell of some kind.
For sure.
Yeah. Looking at the matchups, does anything there surprise you that he was able to win against these? I guess the Soulblight mirror might be strange, but just looking at the factions there, any of those matchups surprise you that he won?
I mean, OBR is it's sort of an auto condition that's very actually a tight matchup. Looks like he's played into the double, into the mirror, sorry. And my guess is like with the output that he has from the 40 Graveguard, probably his opponent didn't have that. That's probably mostly what happened with that one. Night Haunt, no problem.
Yeah. Night Haunt, no problem at all. Slaanesh, they eventually lose arrows. Like, they don't have enough arrows to kill you for 5 rounds in a row.
Yeah, they'll lose arrows for sure. And then Skaven, yeah, Skaven's always a hard one to guess because it's all about positioning and then what they brought. Like, you know, if you're looking at Thankful can actually cause some serious.
He's a nightmare.
Here. He's a nightmare to deal with. And I've had players who play him effectively, and I've played against matchups where that's not the case. But Thankful always scares me when I see him on the board, and I don't take that army for granted for 1 second.
I think if you get Neferata, sorry to interrupt. I think if you get Neferata or the Vampire Lord in on Thankful, then you win.
Then you win, yeah. Because you'll be able to turn off that ward, and then they're only 14 wounds. He's only 14, 16 wounds.
Oh, like it's not even about killing him. It's just he can't shoot your hordes, and that's the scary thing.
100%. Yeah, and he's shooting that one monster, and
doesn't do any damage. Yeah. Cool. Well, congrats, Ryan Rutherford. I hope Soulblight don't evolve past this. I hope this is where everybody stays with Soulblight. There is some terrifying stuff waiting in that book. Let's look at Null Myriad list from OCR Bone Reapers. So we predicted Null Myriad was going to be one of the 2 sub-factions people play. Now that Petrifex is nerfed and Harvesters are nerfed, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the main sub-faction people play. And this looks like about the form you're going to expect to see it in, right? It's got the Bone Shaper, he's got the -1/-1 aura, he's got the Artisan's Key, he's reviving, you know, two of these guys per turn. Arcan's reviving one of them per turn. Catacross is reviving 1 each turn. And then it's a whole bunch of stuff that they're reviving, you know?
Nightmare Predator to help round things out and keep control of objectives, even with your extremely elite army. One of the reasons I really wanted to include this list, though, take a look at the matchups.
Knights, Caradron, Beast, Blades. Yeah, it's all the other top tier armies. Except Beasts.
But you notice that this Null Myriad isn't really doing that much. I love how, like, it doesn't matter, you know?
It's just there to shore up the bad matchups. And even there's going to be a spell every now and then that you want to care about, like Acquiescence against Hedon Knights, Null Myriad, the army is solid enough, especially since the Petrifex. It was always a choice of, like, do you shore up your, like, Stormcast and Slaves matchup, or do you shore up your anti-magic matchup, like Seraphon, Lumineth, Zeech, things like that. And it's just a meta call, and Null Myriad's, now that Petrifex is basically nuked out of existence, Null Myriad is going to be the play. And the second one's going to probably be Crematorians, just for more damage output. Maybe.
Nah, it'll be Mortis Praetorians.
It'll be,
Mortis Praetorians.
Countercharge is
the
good.
Countercharging on Cavalos Death Riders and sneaking in damage like that is pretty cool.
I don't like the Catacross here. I think that should just be more bodies, because I feel like the bad matchups for this are going to be things that just outmaneuver you, just have more bodies than you. Catacross adding +1 to save is cool. There's going to be stuff that still cracks you, shuts off your wards, shuts off your commands, and still kills that unit of 6 and Mortis Guard or 3 Stalkers or whatever. And
I don't know about that.
I'd rather just have more stuff.
I don't know about that. There were a couple of Catacross Archon lists. No, I know Teams is a separate format altogether, but Catacross Archon is disgusting with the Bone Shaper as far as Resurrection goes. It means
but what I'm saying is the
you
units
have to dedicate
to
wiping things out.
Yeah.
The thing is how, like, past like a 2-up save or like a save stack unit with a 5-up ward or some kind, it's just not gonna die that easy. Like Cavalos Death Riders for speed, I like Archai, I like Stalkers, I like Immortus Guard here. There was a list at the event I went to where, like, they had split them. They hadn't taken Archai. They took 2 units of 3 Stalkers, 2 units of 3 Immortus Guard. I think maybe Bone Tie Shrieker, but not Nightmare Predator. And it's like, there's not a lot. When you're stacked up like that with Catacross, with putting -1 to hit on their most important hammer, with reinforced constructs, with a Mystic Shield, Plus, stalkers have an innate way to give themselves +1 to save when they get charged. You are not dying, man. 15 wounds on a 5-up ward, 1-up save effective is not dying. And it's
I
just like, you killed
disagree.
2 models, cool, I'll just bring them back.
I disagree. And here's why I disagree. You'll probably win any melee fight. But people are going to shoot that Bone Shaper, or more accurately, they're going to shoot Arcan probably, because Arcan's a 3-up or 4-up save.
Arcan's a 3-up now, but the issue is like they can deploy him really far back because his spell range is huge.
No, what I'm saying is they'll shoot whatever's near the Immortus Guard, and they'll just plow damage into them that way.
Sure, but you're -2 to hit, -1 to wound at that point. So it's like, cool, you'll kill maybe like 3 Immortus Guard, I'll just bring them all back.
Well, I'm not saying it's like a perfect strategy, but that's the minor point. Like I'm saying, you're going to win the fight with this list. That's never in contention. But it's going to lose on tactics, I think. I think people that are savvy enough can just play around the fact that you have like 6-inch move units. You have 2 fast units, both of which are probably just going to run out of range of everything that matters. And you can just split this army up. If you play
tactics, that's what I'm thinking. Like I didn't really find that mobility. I found mobility to be an issue, but only on that positions over power mission. Everything else, it felt fine. Like I was able to achieve tactics. I was able to achieve I would do like cutting maneuver, desecrate turn 1 usually, Cavalos Lance turn 2, destroy have like a Bone Shaper and an Immortus Guard, contesting an objective, which is a Ossiarch objective, turn 3, or something like Eye for an Eye or gaining momentum. Mm-hmm. It's hard, but it's not undoable. It's tactics is fine.
Not the battle tactics. I'm just saying, playing tactically, I think you can pull this army in different directions. And then I definitely think this doesn't do that thing anymore.
Yeah, I think it's weak in the sense that I don't think Nightmare Predator should be the pick here.
I don't think there's points for anything else, right?
No, Soulsealer Carrion is the same number of points.
Oh, but Carrion 100%, because you just outnumber this army.
You have no bodies. Yeah, you have no bodies. If you fight that summonable spam list, any kind of summonables, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You will just automatically lose because they'll just keep bringing stuff back. I guess Arcan helps with Soul Release there, but Soulsealer Carrion is a wonderful spell. Bone-Tide Shrieker even I would take at this point, because it's like if you can turn off Battle Shock for a bunch of things.
There's another huge problem with this list. The Bone Shaper is the only Mortisan. If he's dead, goodbye Sterility, goodbye Null Myriad. The whole list becomes exposed.
Oh no, you get Null Myriad thing around Arcan.
Oh, that's right. It is around Arcan too. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I thought it was just Mortisan, but yeah, you're right. It is Arcan as well. But still, the way you play around Bone Reapers isn't to beat them in a fight like you would with Iron Jaws, where you just screen and counterpunch properly. The way you beat Bone Reapers is by not engaging them and then forcing them into terrible positions and then just running circles around them on the sides. This army wants to play as a single castle. None of these units work well on their own. They're not good enough on their own. And Catacross is so ridiculously slow. Guard are slow. Stalkers have a bit of a higher threat range, but they're not charging turn 1, right? So the
thing is, if the resurrection ranges and the spell ranges weren't 24, I would say yes. But realistically, all you need is those things: the 24-inch +1 to save and +1 to hit, and 24-inch resurrection. Any spells they're doing, Arcan is fast enough to keep up with anything in this army. He has effectively, in this army, he has a 19-inch move.
I think you just split them up. You force them to split up, right? This army excels at 3 objectives diagonally across the table.
Oh yeah.
That's
3
the perfect
objectives
scenario.
Every day. Yeah, this is every day.
As soon as you hit any other battle plan, this will struggle. Not struggle, but it would give a lot more opportunities for your opponent to play around it.
It requires smart positioning for sure. You have to know your angles. If there's ever a 6 objective mission, which thankfully we didn't have, it's an auto loss, I think.
Should we do a how to counter Bone Reapers, or is it not worth it? It's a mix of Iron Jaws.
I want to wait till the battle scroll. I don't know what they'll do to this army. They might nerf them in points. I don't think Immortus Guard are 200. They should be 220. The same as Stalker. I don't know why they're 200, but this army will need some points adjustments. The Harvesters and Mortec Guard will have to go down to compensate for what they've just done. I think the -1 to wound, we're not going to see the end of Petrifex. -1 to wound is way more applicable now. When you're fighting all these.
But
yeah, but you're fighting all these 1 damage armies like Slick Blade Seekers and all that crap. It's -1 to wound is really good. Even against Soulblight, our Mark running, Vampire Lords and Blood Knights. -1 to wound is killer. It's good.
It's very good against Seraphon too.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a Skaven 5-0. Woo! We did it.
Is it Thankful Warbringer? I bet.
Oh yeah, 100%
You
Thankful
bet.
Warbringer,
You
dude.
bet.
Warbringer is the most disgusting. Oh man, just kill it with gun is the real solution here.
Yeah.
This is the solution to the summonable spam. Because guess what's good at killing hordes? 4 flamers on Thankful.
Yep.
Oh yeah, full flamer Thankful 100%. The Warbringer is taking care of every other target because it does so much damage, dude. You take flaming weapon, you put that on its like 6 attack thing. He's got +2 attacks when he's around his units for Devious Adversary. He's a monster. Warpstone Charm. Oh no, Devious Adversary. He just gets the +2 attacks. But Warpstone Charm then is reroll all wounds if you're within 3 other Skaven units, pretty much. The guy fights so hard, and he's reducing. Devious Adversary. No, it's reducing save by 1.
Yeah, so he's like
there's just so
effectively
much effect
-3
going
rend.
on.
He's effectively -3 rend, bunch
on
of 3
2 of his
damage
attack
attacks.
profiles.
Yeah, he's like -3 rend 2 damage and -3 rend 3 damage, and
Yeah.
like I want to say 5 and
6
8
double
attacks or something
damage.
like that.
Yeah. Hit
It's
6 for
crazy.
6 damage. He's
crazy.
so strong. This list though went for interesting the Doom Wheel tech. You see the Bombardier taking the Vial, the Fulminator.
So I talked to Zach Shin this weekend.
Yeah.
I talked to Zach Shin. He's also really hot on Doom Wheels. Because you can just run these things like 46 plus something, and they just like poop out mortal wounds all over the enemy army. And that's what he uses them for, because the rest is just Thankful and Warbringer, and the rest is just objective taking or screening crap, right? Everything is in there to support Thankful, Warbringer, just deploying a spell in your face, shooting you. Warbringer kills you in melee. The Doom Wheel is that disruption piece where if they just like are packed really tight, it really punishes them because it can just ride over them and drop D3, D3, D3 like crazy.
Yep.
There's so much cool stuff in this list. Grace Hero with Levitate, a Line Breaker battalion.
This is fun. This is like great. This is like toolbox. This is like oh my god, a rat toolbox. Please give it to me.
Exactly the kind of list I want to be covering on the Realm Report.
Quicksilver Swords. Okay, Line Breaker, like Vanguard battalion. That's rare, right? That's like a rare occurrence to see a Vanguard battalion. Like Stormcast use it. I use it in lists very rarely, but it almost never comes up on our show. Linebreaker Battalion, I legit think this might be the first time I've ever seen it since 3rd edition started, when people were like, oh, these core battalions are so useful. You get free command points, right? Like, I don't think I've ever seen a Linebreaker, ever. Even when people didn't know about that battalion. Oh, that's silly. I love it.
It's going to be for the same reason we like the Vanguard Battalion on Chariots, because those Doom Wheels can't command themselves.
Yes, that is nice. I like that. That is something I have to consider for Seraphon. Cool. Because there's units in that army that can't issue commands to themselves.
Yeah, you can go ahead and rig it up like that. Mm-hmm. Such a cool list. This is facing Khorne, facing down KO.
Yeah.
Ogres. That was a Boulderhead list.
I was gonna say Ogres is the hardest matchup of these 5 for this list, because if the Vermin Lord doesn't connect properly, everything else here is meant to kill hordes, and like Doom Wheels and Vermin Lord carry you give you a chance, I should say, against the Boulderhead matchup. And the Quicksilver Swords, too. Those are key. Yeah, what's the meta right now? Big, meaty hordes of stuff. Every army that's doing well right now uses units with 10 plus models. What does Skaven counter? That. But those units also have spell ignores or good unbinding or some way to avoid spells in some way, right? Like Khorne, Beasts aren't on the table. Khorne has the blood type thing. Seraphon hordes will have good unbinding pack behind it. Like, all these armies have some way to deal with spells. So doing mortal wounds that don't come from spells against hordes is, like, that's the
This is basically, pick. Like, this is going to sound really weird. This is, like, their version of Cometfall. They use Doom Wheels as these, like,
Doom
mobile comets.
Moving over and over again.
And, they just move, they move over your Ironclads. They'll do D3 to everything. Then he'll probably pop a Warp Lightning Vortex with a +3 to cast. And then your heroes in KO are dead.
Oh, the swords, too. Swords just kill the heroes in the boat.
Yeah, swords, too. Yep, that's it.
Dig it, man.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit better than that, because it's like the Doom Wheels. They're always going to be, as long as they're alive and they're still operational once per game. So it's just keep them going.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's like, it's really, really good. Like, I don't know why people weren't running Doom Wheels before, but they really should.
Wait, so
stupid models.
this wait, he's got enough Graciers and the Vermin Lord.
Yes.
He has the Master Clan, right?
He
That's
does.
what he's also doing. Yeah. So when one Doom Wheel moves,
Oh,
the
the same.
rest.
They all move the same, so he
Yes,
needs to make
that's
one
the
good
other
move.
thing he's
Yep.
doing. Yep.
Yep.
That's the other
if he
thing
rolls
he's
like
doing.
if he rolls like 2 6s and 2 5s or something, oh
Yep.
boy, we're chilling. We're like
Yeah.
23. We're like
Yep. I was
28,
remembering, I'm like,
22
what was
inches
that
of
Doom
movement.
Wheel tech? Yeah, this is the Doom Wheel tech with the Master Clan, always three class steps ahead trait. Oh my gosh, love this.
Somebody's running
This
the
list is
meme.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Do you know
this
what's
is the coolest list?
if you're playing a Horde army and you don't tie up or kill Thankful in the first round of the game, it's over. And even then, you
Yep.
can Skitter Leap out,
yeah.
right? Or Loud Chown out.
Yeah, you've got to stop that man.
Yep.
That rat on another rat.
Yeah, that rat on the skateboard.
Yeah, I would play
Yeah.
this if I didn't want to paint that many rats. I just don't like painting that many models.
There's rumors that they're getting new ones, so I wouldn't invest.
Right now. I mean, Doom Wheel's pretty new, but I would expect the resin range to get updated for sure.
Yeah, they're one of those armies that needs a Seraphon treatment.
Yeah.
Okay, what is Bug Eater GT? What does that mean?
It was up north in Nebraska. So I'm gonna assume that there's like a local something that I'm not aware of. As a southerner, I don't know what's going on up there.
I don't know what I thought it was some kind of American slang you guys got.
I can't say I've ever heard of it.
It's in Omaha, Nebraska. It's
you're
like
closer.
It was started by there's like a high school there or something where it was initially it was like for a debate team. Like they used this to raise funds for the debate team. And it just became like bigger
Oh,
and
so it's
bigger
like
and
a
bigger.
thing. Okay.
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah. And so and now they just got a bunch of sponsors and they're like an actual GT now.
Cool.
I don't know, but maybe Bug Eater is like their team name or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Love to hear the
It's
story.
Bug Eater number 12, so there's a lot going on there for sure.
Dynasty of Bug Eaters.
Yeah, they also have like a another I think tournament in there called Corn Husker, like corn as in like.
Oh
corn
yeah,
Heard of that one.
Huskar.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, this is great. Love it. Heck yeah,
Sweet.
guys. Well,
I think we got
man.
one more list.
Yeah, we can't really, talk about the meta without talking about one of the big bads. Gareth Thomas is I'm sorry, I meant Blades of Corn. Sorry. Blades of Corn is is definitely a big bad in the meta. Reapers of Vengeance, of course, to get that awesome +1 to hit against heroes.
Best.
This is
best
a
one.
triple Bloodthirster list. Triple Bloodthirster list. No skull cannons though, so it's all right. Yeah, I mean this is the bread and butter, what you expect. Like you think of a corn list, you're thinking of triple Bloodthirster. You got Scarbrand, Buff Thirster, Wrath of Corn as well. Just for them to hit one after the other. It's got all the hallmarks. The priests with the Bronze Flesh, Bloodbind, Prayer Enhancement, of course, so they all have 2 prayers. Taking Firebrand to make that Wrath of Corn Bloodthirster have Halo Blood and Killer Instinct and Unholy Flames. So many names. Everything is just a toolkit, and all of them have access to everything they need. This is if you'll watch on our corn review, we'll break a lot of this stuff down, but this is just a good list, right? Like this list almost writes itself.
It's not what I would play. I would not play Triple Bloodthirster personally. This is
the most popular way to play corn right now.
Is it really? Oh boy.
100 popular. 100% the most popular.
Okay, there is
the most popular.
Sure.
There is the balance generals list, which I think is what Dinos is doing, which is like Blood Warriors, the Skull Reapers, some Skull Cannons, like the Bloodthirster Fury, the list that works together with each other to do things.
Yeah, big synergy.
And then there's just Mindless Carnage, which is just spam, just take whatever and just push it into their face. You have the largest threat range in the game with Murder Lust, Killer Instinct, and so there was a list like this on there was a best overall team at KC, and one of them, I think Dean or Duncan builds, they had he had 2 of the Boomthirsters, Scarbrand, Be'lakor, and 2 priests. Minimum 5/5/5 Fleshhounds, Hexcorger Skulls, I think, and all they did was Bronze Flesh turn 1, Killer Instinct, Blood Sacrifice, and then just push double move a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage, Murder Lust it up if they have to, charge, delete the entire army. Just like unga bunga gameplay, basically.
It's like Iron Jaws without skill.
Yeah, just better Iron Jaws, and just you rely on dice rolls to just win you the game.
Yeah.
That player's gonna win best sportsmanship. Because everybody's gonna love playing against it.
It'll just it's like if all these armies are just castling up, deploying in this tight castle. The Insensate Range, you hit 2 6s, that's a castle buster. That's it. You busted that castle.
If people deploy wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. They will. They do, and they will.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they do. But they do. So there's a couple things I want to point out on this list. First off, salute to the guys still playing Cruel Boys. Good job.
That poor guy just got annihilated. He just showed up.
Yep.
Thomas probably died turn 1. Let's be honest.
And second, I like that Scarbrand. The way we put lists on our show, I think it's a good way to display that information. Usually I have like endless spells and stuff in italics. We kind of wrote this one late, but the way it's written here, Scarbrand is in the other section next to the bleeding icon and the Wrath Axe. So it's like he's just this manifestation of Khorne's anger, like he was summoned into play.
Yeah.
And just for some reason that makes me laugh. Do you know what we haven't seen at all in this Realm Report? Not one of these lists played against Stormcast.
Yeah, and that's kind of scary because like in the slides upcoming, we'll see there's still meta representation. It's just
yup. Isn't
it's just
that
we're so
peculiar?
bad against everyone else, we could beat this.
Stormcast has particularly good matchups into some of the new Battletomes, I think.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we do. We really do.
Or some builds. I want to say some builds, not
some build. Yeah, every build has pros and cons. Yeah. Okay, so then that brings us into our stats. Win rates. These are always a fun headline grabbing thing. I feel like this is the clickbait section of our video. So
yeah.
We only need to make
These
silly faces.
Big faces. Yeah, these are provided by our friends over at Wohammer, who do an awesome job. Definitely check out their website. They, if you're, I always see people asking for, hey, do you have the lists from this weekend that won, or they post articles throughout the week as well as a roundup of everything, showing those lists from GTs and tournaments around, mostly GTs, of course. And they've got stats. They've got great stats. They've got everything put together. They're very clear on how they put out their data. It's a good time. They're good guys. Please support them. Please check out their website. They're helping us, letting us present their information, and that's awesome. Starting at the top though, the Seraphon book is very new.
Yes!
And not allowed everywhere. But for the moment, this is a screenshot, right? Like this is the time to be like Seraphon are broken.
I don't think they are.
I think no, they'll fall much closer to the middle. But it is funny to see just because 3 points of data on new Seraphon, of course. Just because of them not being legal in a lot of different places, which is all right. But yeah, no, going into the next thing, that has plenty of data points. 91 entries or 91 it could be different it could be the same player multiple times technically. But it is 91 results at 63% win rate. That's not small. That's not a small sample size. Well, I mean, it all is, but that's not a small sample size. In this
it's
context.
not in this relatively. It's not a small sample size, like compared.
Yeah,
to
this is the amount of Stormcast players here is 122. To put that in perspective.
Yep, this is This reminds me of Gits when their book came out, and they had this huge spike in win rate.
Yeah,
and I remember talking about it, and we had a discussion. Was like, okay, are they going to increase in win rate because people will refine their lists more over time? Or will they drop in win rate because people learn to play against their very specific gimmicks? And I think I can cite 2 examples here. Idneth Deepkin are an army that will always drop off in win rate after a strong release because people remember how to play around Forgotten Nightmares and High Tide and things like that. But an army like Gits, there's not really much you can do to play around those mechanics, right? There's limited options to hard counter their army. An army like Khorne is the same way. And I think Soulblight is one of the armies that will only get stronger as people refine their list more. There's not much you can do to stop zombies right now. If you're a melee army, you just put your hands up in the air and go next, right? Like, what can you do?
Yeah. It's more than that. It's more like
you can play around an army's tricks, but there are, no matter how good your tricks are, there are some tricks that are just the ultimate expression of. It's like it's in game design. It's like, if you give the players the best way to solve a problem, they're always gonna use it. It's like that. Like Idnet has cool mechanics. Daughters of Cain, cool mechanics. The problem is those mechanics, no matter whatever variation of mechanics you want to give them for melee combat, they're never gonna beat complete resurrection. They're never gonna beat complete healing, like Soulblight has. They're never gonna beat like OBR's healing or like wards. They're never gonna beat like Teclis's magic or like Seraphon's magic.
Mhm.
And it's like, so when you have that tool, ultimately they're an honest Warhammer army, and none of these armies are playing good honest Warhammer. What does Idnet, like, let's say zombies weren't as busted as they are. What does Idnet even do? Charge 6 seals into 30 skeletons and then
spam
okay,
reavers.
Cool. Yeah, it's
I
like,
guess.
I guess. I guess I'll die.
And that's why like they need to like really make a check on how much healing they're giving factions, or how easy access they're giving, because there's armies that don't have healing models and they're paying points for those models. And so you'll just lose against something like Soulblight. Like Idnet will always lose against Soulblight. They have, even if they're spamming Reavers, I don't know if there's much they can do there.
Yeah, see, there's just some armies that pay for allegiance abilities and some that don't. And I think Games Workshop is aware of this, because in the last battle scroll they specifically mentioned that Tzeentch is getting small point tweaks because the power of their army didn't account for their ridiculously strong allegiance abilities. And I think that's a lot of the recent books is doing that.
Go
ahead.
I would say that's primarily it. Like that is the thing.
There's a couple things I can point out that are just bad in a vacuum. Blissbarb archers are too cheap. You can have 0 allegiance abilities, and that unit is at 150 points is too low. Thunderers, 135, too low, right? These are 2 problem units that don't rely on allegiance abilities necessarily, or even War Scroll abilities. Like, these units are just undercosted, period. There's some stuff, though, that, like, Khorne is a great example of this. The allegiance abilities are carrying Khorne right now, because it's not a high damage army. Nothing in the book, no single War Scroll will do more than, like, 20 damage max, unless you start stacking up multiple attack bonuses. And a lot of people don't really bring those. Like, Bloodsecrator is not as common as he used to be. He used to be an auto include. Now he's like, yeah, sometimes you bring the Bloodsecrator, sometimes you don't, right? It's fine. And without the Bloodsecrator, that army just doesn't do very much damage. It relies on picking the right fights at the right times from the right angles, and then hoping you don't debuff them into nothing. Like, it's not a high damage army. Whereas, like, Stormcast are super high damage, but they don't have the tools to put that damage where they need to reliably, and they can't beat everybody else's tricks. We're going into debuff hammer.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, a buddy of James and I, he plays on the same team, and he plays Cities, and we joke all the time, like, Cities is an extension of Stormcast.
No. Stormcast is an extension of Cities.
Yeah. There we go.
Like it really was, because it was just the abilities that came out of Cities and the units that you can take from Stormcast in those cities were just better allegiance abilities for Stormcast. It was very clear. Like, when you put them in living cities, you're like, oh, okay, this is just flat out a better place for them to be than
broken.
Yep. Look at Tempesters and Tempest Eye. It's like, oh.
Okay, yeah.
You're telling me I can get a +1 to wound and a +4 to my move? Yeah, I'll take that.
You can get that in Hallowheart too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so looking at the win rates again, Soulblight, obviously we got to talk about that, right? Nothing else in the top 10, let's say, surprises me.
Yeah, but what does? I mean, the bottom half though.
Yeah,
this is like the first time.
This is the least balanced 3rd edition has ever been.
Yeah.
I remember in our first live stream at the start of the season, I said this has been the best time to play Age of Sigmar, because you can play any army and have a chance at 5-0. The game is the best balance it has ever been. And boy, did I just miss that, because it just, like, the Battletome after Battletome after Battletome just cratered.
Yeah, it just fell off a cliff.
Yeah,
completely fell off a cliff.
It's been so much power creep in such a short amount of time. Gits were S tier. They've lost almost 10% win rate, and they're still S tier. Like...
Yeah,
no, they went up. Their average list went up like 200 points, and they're still S tier.
Yeah, and they're still running 100 points down in some cases, because they want
they're
that
still running like 70
indomitable.
points down. Yeah. 1930.
If you go look at AOS Worlds, if you look at the AOS Worlds lists, out of the 5 top lists, 3 are Gits.
Yeah, Gits, Khorne, probably Slanesh in there, Caradron.
No, it's Tzeentch. It was Tzeentch.
Oh, okay.
We're all looking for those stats to come out, I think, from Worlds, but generally what they said was even though there were so many Gits players, performance level did go down even at Worlds. So that is something to consider. Like, even though they were represented in so many teams, it's saying something that people came prepared to deal with them at Worlds. So I wonder if that's also what's interesting that's happening, is that people are getting used to playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, even with that preparation, they still did really well. They had a great showing. And a lot of it too, like I think Gits' win rate went down more because of look how popular the army is now. It's now more popular than Stormcast.
Yeah.
People were waiting for their, balloon riding maniacs.
Gits was always a popular army. It was the hobbyist army. It's the army that looks fun. The models look like they're having fun. You're just like this crazy mushroom eating little dudes. It's like it's like you can have and with the mechanics of the army and the points, you have Spikes, Johnnies, and Timmys playing it. And so 126.
Yeah.
126 players makes more sense than ever. Yeah.
Just some points of data here that are worth bringing up. We've gotten so far off the rails that Fire Slayers, in the best season that's ever happened for Fire Slayers, they are a very strong army. They're below 50% win rate. Ogres are now below 50% win rate, and they had to be like hot fixed nerfed because they came out far too strong, and they've gotten no changes, and they're under 50%. Sylvaneth under 50%. Lumineth, we thought at the start of the season Lumineth was so good it needed to be just nerfed into the ground, and almost nothing's changed. And the army now is under 50% win rate, just because every new matchup that came out is bad for them.
Yep.
Like,
except for Hedonites of Slanesh, but Caradron, Soulblight, Blades of Corn is all terrible for them.
Yeah, depending on the build, I think Slanesh is not hot either. They could just bring a lot of.
I mean, if Slanesh plays the Pretenders build, Lumineth can deal with it because they just turn off the general's ability to issue commands. It's like, cool, have fun.
I think Lumineth really need, like I said, they got to pivot. I don't think there's enough time for them to pivot. So yeah, it's just
no.
And then look at the trend. All the top books, like the meta right now is books released this year, second edition books that are so undercosted they've become competitive. Again, we've seen this before, right? Flesh Eaters are like that, and then Beasts of Chaos last year were like that, and it's not a good design. And like the lower the win rate, that tends to correlate with how long ago the book was released, right?
Yeah, Beasts of Chaos is the only one that was like released this year that is somewhat lower. I guess like Slaves really released last year. Like, let's be real.
I'd call it this year because they lost the corn mark, and that was a huge deal.
Thing is, like Slaves is also the thing where it's like it's playing honest Warhammer. It's like Stormcast, but if Stormcast was actually like a good, well-designed book for beginners. So Slaves has a lot of like beginner players. That does not mean it's a weak book. I think there's a Slaves of Darkness list with 60 Splintered Fang that just took like the Bay Area open.
Yeah.
I somehow missed that list when I was putting everything together, and
because I met him.
We literally found it.
I met that guy in Casey, Benjamin Hoskin, I think that's what his name is. And like I'm telling you, Slaves of Darkness is a very strong player in the game. It's just that the other books just have such degenerate mechanics and they are so efficient.
Slaves really
just getting pushed down.
Slaves really got to pivot into Splintered Fang, and still nobody can get them. So maybe it'll dodge the battle scroll, and finally this summer we see it. Yeah. All right, so that's flashy win rates. Let's look at some more substantial data. I'm going to turn off the pop out here. Dan, break down this chart. What are people seeing?
Yeah, so this is going to be it's a chart showing the number of players that are achieving a undefeated. It's basically like how long did you go undefeated. So the gray bar is going to be 3-0, right? You went through your first 3 games, you won all 3 games. The orange bar is going to be they call it tournaments in winning position because you're at 4-0 at that point, right? This is how long you've gone undefeated. This is 4-0, and then obviously the 5-0. So this is kind of showing the conversion from going undefeated in the later rounds, because the first 2 rounds can be somewhat weaker of matchups. Sometimes you get some newer players, and then you start to get matched into people that are closer to your bracket. So this is a good way to see not only just how many players out of the like Soulblight, out of 91 players, 10 got the 5-0. Like that's a insane 5-0 rate. But not just that, but just also like the conversion on that is pretty high. Like out of the 15 that went 4-0, they were able to make that 10. 10 were able to make that 5-0 pretty consistently.
So there's a couple interesting data points, and the reason we show this chart every time we do Realm Report. First off, an army like Sons of Behemoth, I think they were above 50% win rate. I think 52. But you can see here, they never 5-0. They never even 4-1. They win 3 of their 5 games, and I'm sure they have a great time doing it. But then they hit a player who knows how to counter them and is playing a good book, right? And then it's just over, right? That's just how it goes for Sons of Behemoth every time. Lots of armies can go 3-0, right? Stormcast have a lot of 3-0s there, about as much as Beasts of Chaos. But interestingly, armies like Beasts of Chaos can convert that into 4-1s and 5-0s better than Stormcast tend to do. One of the key metrics we bring up here is the conversion rate the conversion rate from 4-1 to 5-0. Why we look at 4-1 is because
4-0.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying why we look at 4-1s. 4-1s is like the metrics for a strong army, right? If you go 4-1, it means you're a good player. If you go 5-0, it means you're a good player and you got lucky. There's a high, the chances of winning 5 games in a row as you get higher and higher in your seeds gets lower and lower, where a single dice roll can sometimes just twist the game, right? So we look at 4-1 as the standard of like, you're a good player and you're playing a good army. Those things lined up, you got some good dice rolls maybe, but like we tend to focus more on 4-1s than 5-0s here because we know just how much luck is involved in converting that. If the conversion ratio from 4-1 to 5-0 is very high, that's an indicator that the army is too strong. Not a sole indicator, mind you, but it's a pretty good indicator.
One of them,
right?
Yeah. For sure.
For example, an army like Slaanesh, you have a high 3-0 rate that converts into a good 4-1 rate, but it doesn't convert that much into a 5-0 rate. Right? You can see it goes from 13 down to 8 down to 2. Whereas an army like Caradron, it goes 12 4-1s down to 9 5-0. So if you go 4-1, you usually also go 5-0. And that's
you have a better 50% or more chance to go 5-0. Yep.
Yes. And that means you're playing the top players at the tournament who probably brought out their best stuff. You're not playing like, the dads who are taking a day off to roll dice and argue, right? You're playing the people who want to be there to win. And you're winning, let's say, 75% of those matches. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So that's why we show this information. It helps build a bigger picture than just looking at win rates. Because if you just look at win rates, an army like Sons of Behemoth is like, oh, cool, they're one of the best armies in the game, right? No, they're not. We're going to put them in C tier, maybe even lower, and that's a deserved spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, win rate doesn't show everything. This graph's pretty important. The next one actually combines this graph and then kind of shows popularity as well.
This is like, I have no idea what people are playing in my local area, but what are people playing worldwide, basically. And you can see there's a lot of this is like, people just like certain armies, right? I think Ogres, Slaves, Stormcast, people just like these armies. Gits are in there as well. And then there's a lot of people playing Flavor of the Month armies. There's a lot of people chasing that Battletome creep. That's the cynical side of me. Yeah, that's the cynical side of me. I also want to think that there's a lot of people that have just been waiting for Gits to be good and for Caradron to be good and for Blades of Khorne to be good. And they've had these armies or they've wanted to get into them for so long. And now they're so excited to do it. And this is like one of the good things about power creep is that people get excited about games and they want to buy models and they want to go out and play. And this is cool for a short period of time. If they don't fix this in the next battle scroll, it's going to be a real problem. Like, the game's going to be unplayable. Everybody's just going to go play 40k.
I mean, it feels bad, but it's like, if you're like, because people buy all sorts of armies. Like, as someone who has multiple armies, I have OBR, so I don't feel too bad right now. But basically, if you're one of those players who does not have one of these current 5 books, you're gonna feel really bad going up against any of these like last 5 books.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. Like, let's say you happen to be a Daughters of Cain, Nighthaunt, and like Skaven player. Well, I guess Skaven has to play. Let's pick something else. I don't know, Ironjaws. Like, what do? You just feel bad playing those lists. It's like, okay, cool. I'm going into this tournament facing all these popular armies that I have very little chance against. And it's just like, that's why this power creep needs to be fixed as soon as possible. And I hope it can't come soon enough, personally.
Yeah. And I don't want to demoralize people by like adding negativity, because a lot of this is community-based perception, right? Less people will play Stormcast competitively. Just as an example, less people will pick Stormcast as their competitive army if they hear a bunch of people like us, who are, I would say, experts at Stormcast, saying that you shouldn't play Stormcast because it's not competitive. That's not the case, obviously, but it's like, that feeds into the player perception, and then that will create a negative feedback loop where people won't pick Stormcast, they won't do as well with it, so you'll just have like, I don't want to say weaker players, but less experienced players playing it, right? I don't want to tout our own, like, we're not that influential, but you know what I mean? Like, community perception as a whole matters on this stuff. And that's I mean, that's why we call them bandwagoners, right? People get excited, they jump on the bandwagon, they get easy wins, and they're having a great time. But we're bringing this stuff up because we don't want it to be a problem. In a perfect scenario, every single army is valid that can go 4-1, 5-0 if you play it right and you build it right. That's the goal, and we were almost there at the start of the season. We were pretty close.
Yeah, it was in a good spot, and then I don't know, something happened where all of a sudden I feel like the Battletomes turned, and then these.
I want to say it's like a cascade effect because they've explained that this happens in 40K. They had to, like, when they apologized for their bad balancing, they did this for like 40K, right? They released this. They called them, I don't know what they called them, data slates, I think. In the video, I think they explicitly said, look, what happened was when we tested Leagues of O10, which is like their dwarves, and we retested Tyranids, we tested it against all this like other broken stuff that we'd released, right? So it wasn't tested against like Necrons and Space Marines like the first two books. It was tested again, like Tyranids was tested against Wotan, which was tested against you know, what was the other broken Admech or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. So if all these broken books are just testing against each other, they're fine. Like if I'm an OBR player going into a Soulblight player, I feel fine. If you're a KO player going into a Soulblight player, you feel fine. I mean, sure, it's like a slight variation, but a KO player into like a Nighthaunt player is like a way further gulf, you know? And so if they didn't, and remember, these guys don't have that much time for testing. They're not going to go through like 10 Battletomes and, you know, from year one and then test all the way around. There's going to, okay, yeah, no, just those 3 armies we just released. Yeah, pick those out. We'll test it against that. Oh, it feels fine. Great. Push it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're also testing new stuff against new stuff, right? You're not going all the way back to the catalog.
Yeah, no, they just don't have the time for. They don't have the resources for that. They don't have the time for that.
I'll tell you, playing Seraphon lately, last few weeks, it's mostly against newer armies, and it feels fine. It doesn't feel busted at all. So if it comes out and it's like a 65% win rate because it's such a tricky army and nobody knows how to play around it, I won't be surprised because, you know, I've been playing it against newer armies and they feel good there. But like if I go back and play against Nighthaunt, it's going to be a slaughter.
And that's unfortunately that's what it is. It's like if you were, I saw some. There were, if you look at the teams, and this was a good representation of what people think is good. All the teams that at KC Open that were like at the top were running basically a mix of these 5 factions. And if they ever fought something that was an older book, it was a slaughter. It was like a 30-0 match, or like a 30, like 28-2 or 28-5, which is insane.
Yeah.
As far as like scoring goes.
Let's take a look at the last chart we have here. This shows not the change in population, but it demonstrates the change in popularity of each army over time. We don't usually include this information, but because it's kind of a hot topic right now, because like look, for the most part, over the past, like, you know, before this year, for the past 6 months, army populations were more or less stable. Skaven, like Beasts of Chaos, were around 2-3%. Stormcast were somewhere around like 8-10% of the meta. The faction numbers didn't change that much. But look at the past few months. You can see you can tell exactly when the Battletome for each army landed because you see giant spikes in population. And I think there's 2 factors to that. Like I said, it's definitely bandwagoners that are chasing the meta and they want to play the strongest armies. But I think it's a lot of it is also just hobbyists who are like mid-tier players who are just picking up these armies and having a blast. Like, how long did people wait for Caradron Overlords to have a functional Battletome? Not even a strong Battletome, just a functional one. Their army was a broken, janky mess for so long. Or Slanesh, right? Like, they paid so hard for the sins from first edition, and now they have a book that's good but not overpowered, right? Gits, terrible army since day one they were introduced. Now they're actually a good army. So people are taking the opportunity to have fun with this because they've been waiting. Like, people play more than one army, and you can probably see that in the stats too. You can see like the percent of players drops from one army as it rises in another. Right? Ogre Maw tribes shoot up to 9% in December. And then as they're declining, well, armies like Gits and KO are rising. There's players out there who own multiple armies, and I'm sure there's a lot of people just going for the aesthetic, right? They've wanted to play these armies for a long time, and now they have a reason to. So I don't want to say everybody's a bandwagoner. There's definitely a lot more factors going on here.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been waiting to play OBR more because that book was just broken when 3rd edition came out. It just did not work. It was not even playing the game as far as I'm concerned. Really, it was doing its own thing, and they just made it cheap enough to where you could spam a certain unit and do well. But yeah, now I'm happy to be playing it, and it's like I'm not a bandwagoner. I've had OBR since 2021, basically.
You got to
but
5-0
at the
with the
same
old
time,
book.
You did.
yeah,
It's
like
true.
I think like it does need a few tune-ups though. It did need some changes, I believe. And I can very clearly see the power difference between it and something like Stormcast or like Slaves to Darkness or like an honest melee army. Like there's some armies that go up against. I'm like, what are you even gonna do to me? And I get it. I understand it's like power creep is like a nature of their design. They think of ideas and they reiterate on them, which is why I think balance passes like this every quarter are important. And I hope they do something significant, because it's like you said, if they don't, then and we just see some iteration of these last 5 books for the next like until like 4th edition comes out, it won't be a pretty sight.
It's gonna be bad for sales. I think that's a level we can reach them at. It's like, don't do this, guys. You have to fix this. The game is trending in a very bad direction.
Well, it's like I can't remember. Was it like there was like a time in the meta where we continuously just saw, I think, Daughters of Cain, or like I can't remember maybe like Stormcast Dragons, and we just be like, this meta isn't even interesting. It's like we constantly see this army going 5-0.
Season 1
might have
a lot of them.
maybe...
I mean, we've had Nurgle Flies was one. There's
been
several
there was like a good solid 2
time.
months. There was a solid 2 months where all we saw was Nurgle Flies at the top.
Yeah, there was a good
meme. And I was like, it just becomes boring for people. Yeah, it just becomes boring to play.
Nurgle was boring, but there were fewer armies doing that, right? And it's not like 40k where it's like if Space Marines are busted, everybody hates the game because Space Marines are such a huge part of the game. If Nurgle's busted, it's like, okay, what's the Nurgle percentage here? Okay, 5% of the meta is Nurgle. 2% now. Good God, what a drop off. Let's say 1 in 20 players have Nurgle. Even if it's busted, you might not play it. But now it's like there's 6 or 7 busted armies, and then everything else is terrible. And you will play one of those armies because they're all mega popular too. So it's like, I think it's just gonna, everybody that's not willing to buy a new army or just doesn't have the time, because that's another factor here, right? Is like seasonal rules means people are buying new armies all the time. They're buying new rules. They're painting new models. It's, I'm glad there's a rumor that it's going back to 1 year cycle rather than 6 months, because this 6 month cycle has been brutal for people. I know people who haven't played at all this season because they're like, well, why bother? The season's gonna end soon.
KC was my last tournament, and the only reason I went was it was a team tournament.
Yeah.
It was a singles tournament. I wouldn't have gone. I would have been like, whatever. I don't care. Team was like, okay, I can decide my matchup. The only certain matchups I have to really prepare for, But my God,
it's really a shame. Like the battle pack is so good.
Yeah, the battle pack is nice, and it's like it's nice how it gives some of the weaker factions a boost. But then like. And that's sort of the irony of it. It's like the fact that seasonal rules made Fire Slayers that good is a great thing in my opinion. But at the same time, if you're releasing books so powerful that they don't give a care about the seasonal rules at all, because most of these armies are battle regiments.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest, at KC, all I saw in KO were battle regiments. All I saw from Slaanesh were battle regiments. All I saw from Soulblight was double battle regiment. Yeah. If you're not caring about the seasonal rules at all, that says something about how powerful these books are. If you can just completely avoid it and just still be scoring like this.
Yeah, we tried to list ones that weren't battle regiment, but the meta is basically battle regiment. Like 1-drop is the meta. Doesn't matter. Like sharpshooters is good, but people just don't value it highly enough. And I think, the seasonal rules are not good enough.
But sharpshooters, it's interesting that you say that, because like a lot of people will go, do I bring it? Do I don't bring it? And then it's such a hard.
I think,
it wins some matchups, but it just doesn't matter.
It does. But remember when the season came out, I was like, the sharpshooter, only Stormcast is going to take it. Nobody else cares. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nobody I mean, you'll see an odd KO list with sharpshooters in there, just as like a off meta pick. But by and large, every KO list I've seen is battle regiment or double battle regiment.
Lumineth got to pivot into sharpshooters right now, because what's really good at killing small heroes? Sentinels. Like really good. They can't kill.
You know why they can't do that? Because KO will kill them with double battle regiment.
Exactly. Yeah. They just can't, and that's. I really hope they address that in the next seasonal rules. Is that Battle Regiment is the worst thing in
It's
third
the
edition.
it really is. It's the absolute worst thing in the game. It forces like these fragile. It forces everyone into an alpha strike mentality, where either I have to be alpha striking and getting my buffs up, or I have to alpha in like just removing enemy models.
Or
And
fishing
if I
for
don't,
doubles.
I lose the game.
I
Like imagine rolling up to the table as Luminet, losing the defender attacker roll against a KO 1-drop, and saying, "Oh, okay, I lose."
Mm-hmm. Like if you don't have a dice roll, even you don't really have a chance.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, right? Now imagine that KO list that just took like those like bunches of heroes or whatever, right? If Battle Regiment didn't exist for 2 seconds, Lumineth has a chance in that matchup now, because Lumineth overall just has lesser units than KO does, and so if they took sharpshooters, they have 5 units to KO's like 9, and now that KO list, which is normally super good, is not that good anymore.
I think I'd just prefer the game, and I know Haywo called this a utterly crap idea, but I think I would prefer a game where there's a shared hero phase where everybody can put their buffs up. That way, you don't have to build to go first to put up defensive buffs. Because the way the game is right now, you can't design an army like Lumineth if you get rid of Battle Regiment. They will just always lose if they get hit before their buffs are up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I think like that's the one point I disagree with about Halo, where he talked about how he was criticizing Miniac's thing about the double turn, right? And he's like, well, it's a thing you can control though, because
Oh,
you
I
can
love the
build your
double
army
turn.
to have.
Love it.
No, double
Love
turn's
it.
fine, but it's like it's a thing you can control because you can build your army to have lower drops. So there's this cool metagame going around. I'm like, it's not a metagame going around if the solution is to always be the lowest drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are no enhancements in the game that really make up for the fact that you can control turn order, and I think that just needs to that battle regiment thing needs to go. If you want to make your drop smaller by just reinforcing stuff a bunch and take less units as a whole, I think that's fine. You know, that's playing this like really interesting metagame, I think. But I don't think you should be able to just reduce your drops by taking a battle regiment or multiple battle regiment. If does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
no.
if you just like
if the battle regiment was 3 units instead of 5 troops max, it would be a very different game. There would actually be a game to play there. But as it is, it's like no. You're either forcing your army to fit 1 drop, or you're taking like 11 drops and you don't care.
And it's like if Soulblight, for instance, instead of taking 10 different units of zombies in 2 battle regiments, what if instead they were forced to reinforce because they wanted to be low drop as possible so they could deep strike on objectives turn 1? Well, that's a completely different list now. It means they're much more vulnerable to battle shock. It means they're much more vulnerable to things like debuffs or things like soul release that just like deny them area of deep strike, right?
Just a different
And
paradigm.
I don't know why they haven't explored that space, and it's something I hope they really do for fourth. That I would do not want to see this battle regiment meta anymore.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, I was always thinking about like how are you gonna nerf things going into, or like not even nerf, but just bring things down to a good place for other factions like KO and like Soulblight. And
I think they can mostly do it with points. I really do.
That's the only thing I can think of, because you can't. It's even with points, it's a bit hard. Like even KO, KO was in a weird spot, and I felt like when KO received their increase of points, um, KO kept on going back with that last book in like swinging into too much, too heavy on the points debuffing, and then too weak on the points debuffing, and it kept on going back and forth, and it was just like they had such a trouble finding that balance with that faction, because too many increases in that points, the army is unplayable.
Yep.
Too little, and you don't solve the problem that it's currently in.
There's some armies like that. Yeah, KO, Stormcast, Slaves, all these armies live and die by their points. If they're an efficient army, they're overpowered. If they're overcosted, they're garbage, and it's really hard to find that middle line. And KO, I think you could nerf Thunderers to 170, and they'd still be a great army.
I think so, and I'll tell you why, Mark, because I know exactly what you're saying. My teammate in KC took a really I want to say all-rounders list. He took I want to say 2 units of 6 Endin Riggers, 15 Thunderers. He took 2 frigates, 1 of each hero, Admiral, Chemist, whatever. That feels like a good list. It has one of everything. It has your reinforced hammer that does really well. It has some movement. It has Endin Riggers that do some melee damage. They have their own little shooting thing. That feels fine. I don't think you should be able to take one of every hero that is auto take in your army, and also 2 reinforced hammers, double reinforced
You
hammers.
shouldn't be able to
So
take
good-
2 of every hero. Like, how stupid is that?
Yeah. So a main
Yeah.
balancing point would then be to raise the points just enough to where 30 Thunderers and 2 of every hero is not doable.
Yeah.
So you automatically have to start kitting now into Endon Riggers or Sky Wardens to fill up your points. You can't
Yep.
because 30 Thunderers is too expensive. If you want to take 1 block of 15 and do your mega damage, that's fine. And similarly, you shouldn't be able to take like a Chemist, a Navigator, and an Admiral twice.
Yeah.
Like that should be punishing to you. In my opinion, I think the Admiral should at least be 160, 150, same as a Relictor.
Yeah. Another army that could be fixed with points is Khorne. They have incredibly powerful allegiance abilities, and their units don't seem like they're undercosted, but just looking at the stats and looking how powerful their allegiance abilities are, I think they end up being like cut 100 points out of Khorne lists, and I think they're fine. I don't think they're overpowered. Murderlust is cool. I don't want to see it go away. But there's some things that got to be errated, like reviving units more than 3 inches away from enemies in the enemy turn. I think that's got to go away. I think it's got to be 9 inches. Like, standardize that.
Yeah.
In your own turn, 3 inches, cool. That feels awesome.
Totally.
But on the enemy turn, it's like, I just killed that thing, and now it's back over here. What the hell?
100%.
Yeah.
It's
Stopping
real
me from
bad.
playing the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean they all sort of already thought of that because on the enemy turn it's a 4-up, on your turn it's a 3-up. So if they similarly change the range to 3-up, 3 inches on your turn, and then maybe 7 inches on the enemy turn, I would take a 7.
Yeah.
7's a good enough thing.
Yeah, I was thinking 7 for sure.
Yeah. Even having something that your opponent can do to screen, stop that from coming back in, that's going to be helpful. Like,
Yeah, there's just
like 7, 9, 3 inches is you're not able to screen that.
There's not enough room for counterplay against Soulblight with that particular mechanic. I think Murderlust it's almost there, but it's so cool and unique, and Khorne has so many other weaknesses that if they don't have Murderlust in the exact form that it's in, it's a bit much.
I would say like Khorne will just die if they nerf
Bloodbind.
Murderlust.
I want Bloodbind nerfed into the ground. I do not want anybody pulling units within 3 inches in your own hero phase. That's ridiculous. On top of Murderlust, that's too much. So like, keep Murderlust, nerf Bloodbind, nerf Soulblight, reviving in the enemy turn. What else could we errata to actually? Because like most of this is points, right? Take the weaker armies. Take every army under 50%. Give them 50 to 100 points in their list. Nighthaunt, maybe 200 points, right? Give them a whole other unit. Take all the armies above 50%, cut 50 to 100 points out of their list. Game looks way better all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say like that. Couple other things. Zombies need to be fixed. I think.
Yes, they need to be 3-inch range, like every other explosion ability.
Yeah,
except
or
Blaze of Glory for some stupid reason.
115.
Yeah.
And the last change I would make is the Pretenders and Slanesh. That triple command thing needs to be limited to certain commands. You should not be able to triple Unleash Hell, for instance.
Maybe. I think that just gets fixed if you make Bliss Barbs more expensive.
Yeah, that too. If Bliss Barbs go 20 points up or like 30 points up, I think yes. You can fix
I think that fixes it. Yeah, they got to be 180. They're too good.
I mean, part of the problem too is this like the utility of even the Pretenders list. I think they have 4 CP every turn, your turn and their turn.
Yes.
So,
yep. No, they have enough CP to do everything. They do everything.
That's what I'm saying. So that I actually think is the problem more than you issuing it 3 times. If it's a limited resource, then it actually kind of feels more powerful for you as a Slanesh player because you're now using your resource strategically as opposed to having an abundance of a resource all the time.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right, but ultimately Bliss Barbs are 30-inch shooting. They're Raptors, but way cheaper. Like they need to at least be the same as Idnith Reavers, which I think are 170.
I think it's another thing where if you fix Bliss Barb points, then Pretenders doesn't feel as abusive anymore because triple Unleash Hell is a lot less potent if you're not using reinforced Bliss Barbs. Triple Redeploy isn't as potent if you're not trying to skirt away with all these units. Like if they start incorporating a mix of melee hammers and shooting hammers instead of just spamming shooting like they're doing right now, I think a lot of these problems go away. Like I do think Slanesh can be fixed with points. And Pretenders is one of those cool, strong abilities that I don't want to see them nerf because it's so cool. Like it's stupid to get that many command points and have triple commands. It's cool and stupid, and I like it.
I think that's balanced because it's only from the general. Remember that.
Yes.
And once the season goes away, you'll be able to snipe the Contorted Epitome or whatever their general is. So I'm okay with this. Like, there's lots of armies that can deal with the general at range.
Yeah, they don't have bodyguards in that army, so.
Yeah, so the mechanic is totally fine. It's just I think Bliss Barbs just have an efficiency issue. Speaking of which, what would you guys do to Gits? Would you guys change them at all?
Points. Just more points changes. They're still just bringing too much stuff for how strong they can revive and all that.
They've got so much buffing power. Yeah.
Well, they lost about 150 points, I think. Those 180, 150 points. Maybe like 50 more points out of their list, or 80 points more out of their list.
Just to take the edge off. Yeah.
So they can't take a triumph, basically, is what I want to say.
Yeah, because they're running at 1930 easily. Like,
cut the triumph and then another 50 points and maybe 100 points. I'll be okay with them. Yeah. All right. Okay. We're almost hitting that 3-hour mark, and we haven't even done the tier list yet. So let's. We got to do it, right?
We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that.
No.
Just quickly do it. Okay. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. But we'll know what it is. We'll just quickly do it.
Okay. Corn is S tier. We can fill out the S tier first, right?
Yep.
Soul Blight's S tier. I was underestimating them. I thought they might be A tier. I think people can still learn to play around it, but no, there's just too many gimmicks. It's going to be S tier. Bone Reapers A tier. I don't think they're quite S. I think their conversion rate.
They're very good. They'll beat everything that's come before them, but not in the top 5 matchups. They're A.
Yeah.
If you like A.
Their conversion of 4-1 to 5-0 is not good enough for them to be S tier. Most Bone Reapers are exactly how an army should be balanced. Strong, good at what it does, but with distinct weaknesses that people can play around. Carriage Runner S tier.
Yep.
Gits are S tier. Suck it, Dan. I was right. I'm kidding, bud.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
They're really good.
Fire Slayers are still S tier. Or sorry, A tier.
No, A tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, not S. A. Despite having some really bad matchups now with stuff that shuts off wards and commands. But they're still good. They're still hanging in there.
They're going to be falling a bit when the season moves.
Yeah. Sylvaneth. Do we still call them A tier?
A tier. Yep.
Are there enough?
They've got consistent. They're consistent. If you go back and look at the stats.
Oh yeah, no, I know you're.
But they're really consistent. They're
Sylvaneth, and also there are a lot of good players who play them. So yeah.
Yeah.
S tier. A tier. Sorry.
Yeah, A tier.
I think Slaanesh is A tier. It's not busted. It's just too efficient right now. But it still has bad matchups, even with that crazy build. So A tier.
Yeah, I think most of the S tier things can beat it, except for maybe Soulblade, because they just lose to that mass volume. 150 shots will just kill Soulblade. I'll just put it that way.
They don't care about unrendable.
You can't revive fast enough against Slaanesh. But then against anything that has long range shooting or reserves, or
also it's not just revives.
Magic.
It's not just revives. It's Soulblight is a depravity farm for Slaanesh.
Yeah, it's a depravity farm. It's
you charge your Slick Blades into 30 skeletons. Congrats, you're already at 30 depravity, and 6 more depravity gets you to your big thing.
I will say Slaanesh has a horrifically bad matchup into Seraphon. Like, feels unwinnable bad because Seraphon just have so many ways to kill hordes, and that's all Slaanesh is using right now. So Seraphon, I think, are A tier for the record. I think they're
A tier. But I don't think it's on the higher. I don't think it's an OBR A tier.
Horn, Null Myriad are just too good against Seraphon right now, and Coalesce isn't good enough.
No, Coalesce is definitely B tier army.
Starborn, yeah.
Coalesce, I think Coalesce needs time in the models to come out.
Coalesce needs an FAQ to not nerf telepathic summons. That's what Coalesce needs, and I'm just assuming it's happening.
I think Coalesce will need points. Like when they realize a lot of this stuff isn't good, that's when
Stegodon's got to go down. I say that like 10 times in our review, which
Stegodons need to go down. Agrodons probably need to go down to same as Source Warriors.
Yeah,
like 200 for both of them.
I think Agrodons are okay. 10-point drop there.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're probably fine.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Carnosaur, but I don't know. In my opinion, I think, this is gonna sound weird, but I think Coalesce and Starborn need separate point values. But yeah,
they do. They're different armies, and we kind of talk about a bit about that.
One of them summons, the other one doesn't. Why do they have the same points? Imagine if Slaanesh had a different elite. Like, imagine if Pretenders couldn't summon. Why? It doesn't matter.
It's like when people ask why the Lord of Change is so expensive. I'm like, because you can summon them in post.
Because you summon 600 points in 3 turns.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we feel should be an A tier? I think Ogres still make the cut.
Beasts of Chaos.
Beasts? We've been calling them B tier pretty much the whole time we've been doing this. I don't think they've gotten any better.
So it's weird.
It's
so like, okay, it's tough, but it's.
I mean, like, yeah, I've seen skilled players bring it to the A tier.
Yeah.
if I'm saying anybody who's just like, you know, just jumping in, it's a really hard army to do well with.
Yeah, I'd put it as B tier just because it's a much higher skill floor
Sure,
than
that's fair. That's fair.
other
I
things.
take that.
That's
So I
the
think
thing.
B makes the most sense.
Zinch is still A tier, in my opinion.
I think so. Kronspine's still carrying it. They haven't changed that. I'm very worried that if they nerf all these other armies that we're talking about needing changes, Zinch just comes
and
in.
Lumineth will be back. No, Zinch and Lumineth again.
I don't think Lumineth will be back because Seraphon really preys on Lumineth too. Sentinels just die.
And Khorne still do really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lumineth
is still an issue for them.
Lumineth's
No,
army
yeah, sure.
is exactly as strong. It's all matchups. That's the only thing keeping their win rate down right now. So yeah, Zinch, I'm worried they're going to nerf everything else, and then Kronspine just comes crashing through the meta again. It'll happen. Stormdrake Guard are going to be back, and I'm bringing a Kronspine to my Seraphon list.
It'll be the only way you could deal with them.
Yes,
sure.
It is. And Stormcast can't deal with the Kronspine if it powers up, so it's a win-win.
Just bring a chariot. Boom, done.
Spam chariots. 10.
You mean that thing I killed in the hero phase? That's gone. Okay, let's do B tier. Lumineth are totally B tier now. They are not A tier even. They're just really struggling. It's all matchups too.
Yeah.
Like
it's 100% matchups.
Yeah, there's just the top 5-6 armies they can't have almost no play against. So, yeah.
They're just bad into every A tier or S tier army.
Well, not every A tier, but definitely no play against the S tier.
Yeah.
Which army in that would they be good against?
Lumineth has good play against Sunash because they can turn off the commands. They can target the contorted epitome with Howling Gale. They have good play against Zinch because, like, against Zinch, Teclis sort of protects you against spells, and they can auto-unbind their spells and reduce their spells. Teclis has unlimited unbinds. Against Sylvanet, they have play. Against Fire Slayers, yeah, the Nulcidian icon is good, but it requires you rolling a 4-up. If you fail that 50% of the time, you might still kill the Battlesmith with, like, a lucky Searing White Light.
He's got Gurish Rage. Usually.
Yeah, it's really tough for them right now.
I'm not saying it's I'm saying it's winnable.
Yeah,
it's slightly favored for Fire Slayers. Yeah, it's like I would say Fire Slayers have like maybe a 60-40 into it.
I think everything S tier and then Bone Reapers and Seraphon are so bad for Lumineth.
Yes,
just
basically.
Really bad.
That's why they're
Feck definitely goes in B tier.
Yeah. James, you'll have to introduce
really
me to some Feck players. I want to play against them before they get a new book. I want to see what is making this army good.
Nightmare Quest.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Summonable utility pieces are so cool.
Just pieces you take into. Yeah. It's.
I think one Lumineth beat KO this time because they got lucky on Searing White Light and they nuked 2 of the heroes, and then
just nuke the heroes and you get to win. Congrats.
Yeah. Okay, you guys ready for my hot take of the day?
What?
I think Stormcast is B, and I think Slaves are C.
I don't know. I'm gonna hit you with the yikes. I think
I think they're both B.
Yeah, they're both B. In fact, the Slaves book can flex higher than the Stormcast book can with Splintered Fang.
Yes, I agree.
With Splintered Fang, and not just Splintered Fang, Vanguard. Like now that here's the thing, right? The biggest obstruction to Slaves of Darkness was
Petrifex.
OBR.
Yeah, and that's gone. So, okay, yeah, I can give a B for that. Yep.
So now all their damage that was gone is now back on the board.
Yep. I had discounted the Vanguard spam, which is not the best list, but it'll take wins. And if
the fact that it has a 4-up
there,
Mortal Wound, it has a 4-up Mortal Wound save, meaning like all these armies that do magic Mortal Wounds to it, it's like, okay, cool, I have a 4-up.
Yeah. Imagine if you had a way to shut off wards, though.
That would be pretty good.
Seraphon top of A, let's go. Okay. Getting into the dregs here. I think Big Wa is B tier.
Yes, Big Wa is B. Cool
Maybe
Boys
A.
is D.
Yeah, Big Wa doesn't deal
B+.
with the new books as well.
It's like B+.
Big Wa was A tier before, but
yeah, Iron Jaws is B. Like it's the same as us, basically. They haven't changed.
Yeah.
Iron
and then obviously Jaws, F tier.
I think Iron Jaws is worse. I think Iron Jaws is C right now.
Oh my gosh.
I know Anthony's going to be mad that I said that, but I think he might agree. I
mean,
think Iron Jaws
I don't know.
is
Cody and Scooter might disagree with you, but I think Iron Jaws is fine. I think they have some play. I mean, obviously, like if you know how to deal with them, you know how to deal with them. But sometimes like the pigs are too much and the damage is too much. So B is probably fine. But they absolutely cannot go up against like the -1 damage crap or anything that's Old Body's trying to do. So.
Coalesce actually has an interesting place here. Anything else that goes in B? Skaven, I think.
Skaven goes in
Skaven,
B.
yeah.
I think they have just enough tools to where they
Just
can pull
enough
off victories.
tools. Barely, but
These-
just enough.
In case anyone's watching this, these are not ranked left to right or anything. This is just whatever. We're not worried about the minute differences. It's just tier differences. That's all. So like, it's not that slaves are worse than Iron Jaws or whatever. There's no difference left to right. Okay. Anything else in B tier, or are we now in the C? I think
No, we're in the C tier. We're
Cities is B.
Barely.
Never discount Hallowheart or Tempest Eye.
No, I don't
Ever.
know. I don't think it's enough now. I don't think it's enough now.
I think it is. I just think nobody has the models and nobody wants to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Both those reasons.
Like it would require you to buy models that at the GW store price, a bunch of them that are are going to be out of like fashion in like I don't know 4 or 5 months.
Yep.
It would require you to buy a bunch of Stormcast if you don't already have a Stormcast army. Like I would buy a Cities army because I already own Stormcast. How many people own Stormcast and play Stormcast and are like, yeah, let me go play a Cities army? You know.
They are either B tier or not on the list. They're not anything else. They don't exist or they're B tier. Okay. So all these armies then are worse than B tier is what we're saying.
All of them are definitely C, with Cruel Boys taking the D tier.
Taking
the F tier, honestly. Cruel Boys is 100% taking the F tier.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, Cruel Boys, oddly enough, everything they've done to it has improved its matchup against Stormcast, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, what they're really good at is like against these like armies that see Stormcast. We don't want to fight multiple things ever. We like fighting one place at one time. We like shooting one thing at one time. Usually, it's really good into that. Anything else that applies overwhelming force in multiple areas, they're just dead.
Eric Doty in the chat asks, what Stormcast units are good in cities lately? Tempesters? Protectors?
Protectors,
Karazai and Krondys.
Karazai and Krondys.
Storm Drakes?
Storm Drakes are decent.
No, Storm Drakes, I don't know about that. Storm Drakes
yeah, it's not that bad. You'd rather take the other stuff.
Because you can't give them a 5-up ward in cities, which is what we do want. You want them to run as a dual and
yeah, you want them to be really like.
But that doesn't mean they can't be good. Like you could run 4 Storm Drakes and Hallowheart with the Mortal Wound bounce off spell or whatever. And
that's another fun combo. The new Storm Coven in Hallowheart is chef's kiss.
Hilarious.
So good.
Yeah.
When you cast on 3 dice and you can re-roll and you have 3 casts instead of just 2, like it fixes every problem with the War Scroll. And then you pick any unit in the game, and now it's a strike first melee hammer. So like you take that with like 10 Evocators or 10 Retributors and Galatian Veterans, and like, yeah, that unit's just immune to melee combat. Your opponent can't touch that unit because it will just evaporate anything that gets within 3 inches. So you've created this huge exclusion zone that your opponent has to play around because it's a big footprint too. So that's super fun.
Yeah, and you take like take like a really like a city that nobody plays, like a mediocre city like Hammerhall. You take Fulminators and Celestin Prime and Hammerhall, they become absolute killers, fighting twice outside your zone. 100%. Okay,
yeah.
like oof.
Yeah.
Assuming you can get wholly within enemy territory, that's tough.
It's tough these days, yeah, I will say that. But like even their enhancements, like the hero issues out a +1 to hit and +1 to wound aura, so 2s and 2s always. Like, hey, have fun.
Yeah. The cities is like, you gotta really like Scions of the Storm to not play Cities of Stormcast instead. Like that's all we got now. Translocation and Scions, 2 very good tricks that are now done better by Seraphon. Yay!
Honestly, after the Quester's Soulsworn, it's like you could play that in cities. I feel good about it.
What city would you play them in?
Probably Tempest Eye, because I could deploy them up and then use my extra movement to get all my shooters in place, and now I have a screen that is counting as triple bottles.
Yeah, I guess so. What shooting would you use?
Tempesters, crossbows.
Adjudicators with crossbows or crossbowmen?
Crossbowmen.
Oh, well, if they get the bonus move, they're moving. That means they're not getting the double shots.
That's fine. Your Tempesters are meanwhile just shooting, right? So it's fine.
I can't wait to see which city's faction has 4-up rally. Yeah.
Hammerhall.
Jam Protectors into 4-up rally.
It totally could be Hammerhall because they got the banner thing going on.
That's what I'm thinking is Hammerhall. Yeah.
They're the poster boys of cities, so that would work. Yeah. Okay, so that's our tier list. Bone Splitters D, Cruel Boys F.
Yeah,
Cool boys.
pretty much.
Yeah. Yep.
Any disagreements here? Everything looks okay.
I would say like the only disagreement I would have is maybe like, oh no, wait, never mind. This was more of a. Do you think the slaves list, the good slave list, is A tier?
Bottom
Before I would have
A?
said yes. Now I'm not so sure.
It's
Okay.
tough.
The Ravager
Okay.
stuff is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the Ravager.
Yeah, I'm talking about like 60 Splintered Fang, 2 Untamed Beast, 2
Yeah.
Unmade, Corvus Cabal, you know,
I-
slamming some mines, slamming cockatrices or something. I don't know.
I think it is A tier, yeah. I think that build in particular, I don't know exactly
It'll
what
be
that build looks like, but
bottom A tier for sure.
I think it's A. It's A in the same way that Ogres are A, where it's like it's good, but there's just better stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Ogres do something unique.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think like I agree with Rob in the comments. Like he's basically said that. I mean, it's not fragile because it comes back, and you have cockatrices to protect you from melee, or as Mind Sealer ranks is, you can take a combination of either.
You just revive in the enemy hero phase. It's the dumbest thing.
I do agree with Rob's comment that I think Slaves is better than Stormcast because they have armor that is functional. I think like if they're the armored faction, their armor,
And
their
they
rally
have
actually
disposable
works.
enough units.
Yeah,
Yep.
if Stormcast get the right point changes, we become the armor faction again. It's like building those armor lists isn't worth the cost right now. It's kind of like playing Grandhammers, right? Like Annihilators with Grandhammers. It's just not worth the point cost right now. There's better things we can be doing.
No, not even Vindictors, right? We talked about like we're consistently seeing the 3-up armor save, which is regarded so highly, pointed so highly in our book, being found more efficiently. Chaos Warriors are 210, Blood Warriors are 190. Yeah, and Vindictors are 130. Like what?
What if Retributors
5
could
points
shoot?
under Thunderers? Yeah. Jeez, it's not even close.
So yeah, I think the armor is functional in Slave, so that armor builds are I think B tier. They're 3-2 consistently, I think. And I think that Ravager's build is with Archaeon or without Archaeon is I think A tier.
Yeah.
So I think like
Yeah.
Sloppity.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I think we can wrap up the stream. We've hit 3 hours. So
You know
final thoughts. What do you guys? You get one chance, Dan. Don't screw it up.
Final thought on this is that what's super scary is that everything under A tier right now is like under 50% win rate pretty much.
There's 48% win rate armies in A tier. Sylvaneth and Fire Slayers are under 50. Ogres are under 50.
Yeah. That's fair.
But that's the work of the S tier though. That is the work of S tier. That is not.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the A tier is super.
Those armies can deal with.
Yes.
The S
tier.
tier.
A tier is healthy. I would say nothing in A tier except for maybe the cost of like Bliss Barbs is like busted. A tier feels fine.
That's an internal balance thing though. That's not even an external balance thing. The Bliss Barb thing is 100% internal. Like it's just bad for the army itself.
Yeah, and once you account for that and you learn to play against it, it'll be fine. Like, it's not a problem. But it's like, or just put a Horrorghast in or something. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
S tier is like busted armies that have over 55% win rate and they got to be nerfed.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody.
It wasn't like that before.
So what I mean is like there's a gulf, right? It's like all the A tier armies, roughly all the A tier armies, like except for maybe like OBR right now because they're super hot off the block, and I don't think like the FAQ has taken effect yet. But you have all the A tier armies at like 49 roughly, and then you have the S tier, which is like 6 to 8% more than them.
Yes.
So that gulf needs to be shorter, I think.
I can't believe we're back at a point where we have a 34% win rate army. Like,
yeah, like come on.
I don't think Gits were that bad even before their new book. I don't think they ever got that low, right?
They did.
Yeah, was it?
They
that
really
bad?
did.
Yeah,
they got
did.
real damn low.
They were like 30. They were like 32.
It would be like 33, 32 regularly.
Yeah.
That's depressing, man. It's depressing
how
much the game has changed.
There. Yeah, like why are we back there? We shouldn't be back there. We shouldn't be back there where we have 60% win rate armies and 30% win rate armies. Again, it's not. There's no reason.
But this is also like nothing in here feels like it's unfixable. Like in second edition.
Oh yeah, no, that's true too.
In second edition, when we used to say some army's broken, the only way to fix it was to nerf it the points out of the park to where the army was just. It dropped from a toilet. It would have dropped from like 70% to like 30%.
Yeah.
Like
that was the old Terrafund book. It went from 60 to 40. It didn't really stop in between. There was
but here if you nerf the points of the S tier, they become healthy A tier, and all these like some of these C tier like B tier armies might rise again to A tier. So I think
Yeah,
it's a salvageable situation.
like I feel like OBR and both Soul White, even if you went after one specific sub faction and you said Legion of Blood is no longer good, or I don't know, Null Myriad, whatever it is, they fully nerf those things. There would be still so many other options in those books for
Yeah.
other lists and other armies. Like I'm already exploring Whitecross and Castle and all of these other builds.
Legion of Night.
Yeah,
Do it.
like all of them. I've explored. Like I've been going through and exploring them all, and I've had an enjoyment playing each and every single one of them, and they're all good, and none of them feel like Legion of Blood does, where I'm going in and my opponent is sad across from me because they felt like there was nothing they could do. It was back and forth, and there was a lot more. There was a lot more play. Um, maybe the points do change. That will change how I feel about those other sub factions. But um, it'd be cool to see if they did isolate more with certain sub factions that are overperforming.
Until the most recent Battle Scroll, I was really liking what they were doing. They were making targeted changes that seemed to be moving the game in the right direction. And then the recent one, just like it's almost like it didn't happen.
It was barely a Battle Scroll. It was it was like new FAQs came out. That was it. Like
the
a new
Arcane
FAQ
Tome nerf just was unnecessary. Completely.
No, I think it was necessary. I just don't think the extent of it was necessary.
Maybe the timing wasn't right because it was really propping up a lot of these
timing
factions.
lines up with.
The thing is, like, you cannot if Wizards. We had said this, I think, in prior to the Battle Scroll, but Wizards cannot be allowed to take Arcane Tome because there are Wizards that are just flat out better than other Wizards because they have multiple casts and bonuses to cast, and them getting an extra spell is just busted off the bat. Like, can you imagine a Mortisan Soul Mason today taking the Arcane Tome?
Oh, imagine a Slan with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they would be taking it 100%.
Yeah.
I would be taking it every time. In fact, that's what would get me off a battle regiment, so I could cast 3 spells on a Soul Mason. So.
Yeah, but there's no need to nerf it for Priest, right? That wasn't necessary.
Oh yeah, no, that was
or non-wizards.
Or an option.
Just killed so many builds and so many of the weaker factions, like
Idna.
Idna's a huge one.
Idna really didn't.
Like
Iron Jaws.
Yeah,
man.
I'll pretend like they somehow hired someone right after the Iron Jaws and Stormcast books because it's like they suddenly learned how to write enhancements after those 2 books.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, especially after Soulblight. That was the weirdest thing about that book, was cracking it open and realizing, oh wow, the difference that command traits and those enhancements are making with artifacts and command traits oftentimes was the strongest thing about the Legion more than the Legion abilities themselves.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Or a lot of the rules are also just more functional. A lot of stuff they've been putting out lately is like directly impacting the game. Messing with your opponent's abilities, debuffing them directly, fighting over objectives instead of fighting over terrain is way more useful because terrain is variable based on the table, but objectives are universal, right? You know how many objectives there are and where they're going to be. A lot of these stupid like 4-up do something rules are just gone. The old books are plagued with them. The new books just don't have them. They just got way.
A lot
better.
of the stupid once per game ones, like once per game you have a -1 to hit. Like, what? I think the Iron Jaws Tome has that. I think the Cruel Boys have a once per game, you're -1 to hit. Like, what?
Once per game, roll a dice on a 6, deal d6 mortal wounds.
Oh yeah, Cruel Boys is like, you roll like 4 d6s and you might get a mortal wound out of it.
And it's like, oh, once per game. You take this artifact and Stormcast and they can't reroll hit rolls against you. Okay, who's doing that? Nobody.
Not one thing in
like
the game.
Literally, there is not one faction in the game is doing hit rerolls right now, except for Flesh Eater Courts. They have a few.
I was about to say, I think Flesh Eater Court still has theirs.
The second edition book
like
can't
reroll wounds in Skaven. Yeah.
They have reroll wound rolls, not hit rolls.
Yeah, wound rolls has been.
I will say, if Stormcast were the one faction rerolling stuff, that would be okay. I don't think many people would complain about that elite faction feeling elite.
We should be a faction that can block debuffing more efficiently than others, like unmodifiable. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Like divine beings. Anyways, we'll get
Mark,
a whole
final thoughts. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. What would you like to say to everybody right before we log off?
Yeah, enjoy. Have fun. If you're playing Soul Blade, enjoy, have fun. And if you're playing against them, I'm sorry.
Perfect.
Playing against them, play Soul Stealer Carrion or Horrorghast. That's your best hope.
Yeah, Horrorghast is your best friend.
Yeah. James, you get the last word. Make it a good one.
I want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.